Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in Season 2 Part 51 of What If the Transformers Were in My Hero Academia. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 100, Crashed into You. As the team led by RC and Springer approached their destination, Ochako couldn't help but feel unnerved. Here they were, right in the middle of the action, like real heroes, and yet, while their motivation was clear, it still didn't totally feel right, at least to her. The sight of Bumblebee's stasis-locked, bisected body had left a harrowing impression on them all, and they were all resolved to seek vengeance for their fallen friend, but at the same time, she knew that they were far from ready for something like this. But even so, that didn't stop them from coming, and the adults made no attempt to stop them either. So why do I still feel so worried? She whispered to herself. But even though she said it softly, it still caught a keen ear. Did you say something, sweetie? Jinx asked, peering at her from the driver's seat. Oh, no. Ochako blushed, waving her hands in denial. She had completely forgot that a ninja was riding with her inside of RC. Everything's fine. You know, it's alright to be nervous about this. Jinx assured. After all, this is your first time taking part in a major battle. Yeah, Ochako admitted, her shoulders slumping forward. I guess you could say that. Budo craned his head around from the front passenger side, sending her a reassuring smile. Believe me, young lady, we've all been where you are right now. He nudged his head toward his wife. The first time we entered into battle, we were plagued by uncertainty, but as our training under Snake Eyes progressed, that doubt receded and became confidence. It'll get easier the more and more you do it, I assure you. The brunette bowed her head to the samurai in gratitude. Thank you, sir, but I still can't help but think about what Mr. Aizawa said, about us getting expelled. I doubt that'll happen, Uraraka. Shoto dismissed, having taken the other rear seat next to her. Between the media blackout and the fact that the government probably won't let a soul in this city breathe a word of what's happened here today, I think we'll be in the clear. A drop of sweat dripped down Ochako's forehead at his blunt thought, but at the same time, she couldn't fault his logic. I guess that makes sense. Her features became etched with uncertainty once more. Still, I don't know how effective I'll be here. Sure, my quirk is pretty powerful, but I'm mainly training to be a rescue hero. Well, that's good to hear, Jinx pointed out RC's front windshield. Because someone's probably going to need rescuing pretty soon. Ochako's brown eyes darted out to see a rather large structure having collapsed, and she could see several people trapped underneath, and they were all still moving. Oh no. That's our cue, RC said as she screeched to a halt, opening her doors for her occupants. Everyone, get out and fan out. Ochako, Jinx, let's help those people. Shoto, Budo, be on the lookout for villains or cons. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. Transforming into her robot mode, RC peered up into the sky, seeing Springer and Snipe approaching from above. Springer, come in, RC called through the comms. See any cons from up there? A few, yeah, but nothing we can't handle, the triple changer replied. You guys help the civilians and we'll take care of those Decepticreeps. Springer out. Once he disconnected, Springer began flying over to the straggling Decepticons, readying his side guns. Oh ho, man, I've been pretty excited to team up with you again, Snipe. The cowboy hero gave a chuckle as he reached for Springer's controls. Hee, I can see that. Ready to bust some Decepti chops. Let's let him have it. Yaj. The duo belted out a simultaneous battle cry as they flew into battle, with not one of Springer's shots missing thanks to Snipe's quirk. Back on the ground, meanwhile, Shoto and Budo stood vigilant as the ladies approached the fallen structure. Though as expected, none were too pleased by the sight of RC. Gah! Another one. One man shouted. Stay away. A woman bawled out. Stay away, please. What do you want? I want to help you. RC explained softly. I'm not like the cruel bots who attacked you. She nodded down to her human partner. Uravity, the debris. Taking a deep breath, Ochako steeled her nerves and said, right. Before going up and kneeling next to one of the civilians. You're going to be okay, I promise. Keep absolutely still, alright. My quirk's going to make the debris extremely light. Jinx, help me, please. The red-clad ninja was quick to assist as Ochako pressed her hands onto the large chunks of wreckage, making them lighter than air and allowing the two women to push them up without issue. From there, people came walking out one by one, many of them astonished by what they were seeing. No way, is that a kid helping us? What about that robot? As it happened, that robot was currently slicing and dicing up the floating debris into tiny chunks, though for what reason, Shoto couldn't place. RC, what are you doing? Clearing the debris before we bring it back down so that no other humans are hurt, she explained. It'll allow us to search for faster. Also, her gaze drifted down toward Uravity, whose features seemed strained. It'll put less pressure on her. Several lighter objects are a lot easier for her than a single huge chunk. From there, the rescue process continued, but after about 5 minutes. Pow! A colorful laser blast came out of nowhere and struck the ground, making the heroes and RC jump out of the way. Totally not cool. The group whipped their heads up to see a teenaged girl dressed like a princess and wearing a domino mask, wielding a glowing wand and riding on the back of a mechanical, flying horse. You have any idea what we had to do to get this train station like that? She asked. Uravity narrowed her eyes at their assailant. So, you're the one behind this. Reaching behind her, Jinx pulled out her katana and pointed it at the frilly girl. Identify yourself, now. SNRT, sure, whatevs. Her mechanical horse landed on the ground with a concussive thud before she leapt off, gracefully landing on one foot. She then performed a pirouette and waved her wand toward them. I am Professor Penelope Sutton, PhD. But you may call me, Professor Princess. Child prodigy and lovely scientist extraordinaire. Her declaration didn't seem to impress the heroes or RC, leading her to roll her eyes. You could at least ACT impressed. Would rather not give you that benefit, girl. Budo dismissed, procuring his own blade and activating his quirk. The sword began to glow with intense power as he raised it with both hands. Now surrender, before I turn that mechanical beast of yours into scrap metal. How dare you threaten my precious powdered sugar? Take that. Whipping her wand, Professor Princess unleashed a beam of energy at Budo, who countered it with a swing of his blade. However, to his surprise, the energy wasn't absorbed. Rather, it froze his sword completely, taking him aback. Now for part 2. Go, powdered sugar. The horse reared on its hind haunches as its horn powered up, and from it, a long laser blade extended before it swung its body back down. Shoto's eyes widened, using his quirk in an instant. Everybody, down, he hollered, causing everyone to dive down and out of the way as his ice wall covered them all. But right then and there, the ice was cleaved through with a horizontal slash by the laser blade, before an explosion blasted the entire wall away. Shoto grimaced as the self-titled Princess and her horse strode through the haze left behind. Are you crazy? Penelope sent the boy a wink. Only for hot guys like yourself. Unfortunately, the name of the game is to kill ya, and I'd hate to disappoint my boss, Pew, Gia. The young woman ducked and her horse leapt out of the way just in time to avoid a laser blast by RC, who glowered at her with an intense anger. Gah, geez, lady, here I thought you auto bums had a no killing humans rule. We do, Prime didn't say we couldn't rough you up a bit. RC spat. And my patience is already running out as is. Professor Princess simply flipped her hair irritably. So what? You looking to dump all your personal problems on me? News flash, I've got better things to do. And so do I. RC approached the human girl with sword and gun in hand, her glare unrelenting. In case you couldn't tell, I've had a really bad day, so come on. I'll happily take you. CHK, pow. RC moved her head just in time to avoid a laser blast from behind. The shot struck the ground instead, clearly intended to end her life then and there. Thankfully, she was so laser-focused on not dying that her senses were quite heightened, and not a second later, she spun around to lock eyes with her would-be assassin high up on a building. You, she addressed venomously. Lowering down from the building on a thick tether came none other than Shadow Striker, the cold sniper's optics locked on her adversary. Bonjour, RC. I see that you are as sharp as ever. She cocked her rifle as it shifted into assault mode. Good, because I was eager to pick up where we left off. Putting her blaster away, RC instead swapped it for her other energy sword. Oh, this is exactly what I needed. GRAAAH. The Decepticon femme began shooting rapid fire at RC as she dashed forward, though the pink bot was light on her feet as she dodged them all before making a big leap to close the gap. She brought her swords down to slice through Shadow Striker's arms, but the assassin reacted quickly, bringing out her Energon machete to counter. HM, yes, I heard. Shadow Striker chortled sinisterly. You've recently experienced another devastating loss. And what a coincidence, it is yet another little bot. Shut up. RC delivered a swift kick to Shadow Striker's midsection, but with a simple backflip, she was back on her feet. He's not dead yet. And let me tell you, Megatron is going to regret what he did to Hot Rod. Shadow Striker's normal optic widened slightly. Z-Scout lives. After all of that, Unicronus will not be pleased. She gave RC a crooked grin. Perhaps once Z's is all finished, we will finish Z job. You will do no such thing. Yeah. Surging forward again, RC swung her swords with wild and erratic fury, which Shadow Striker once again dodged effortlessly. I will end you. With a simple scoff, the assassin blocked the final strike against her with her machete, shaking her head all the while. I think not, Cherie. For you see, if you've already forgotten, I said, we would end him. She pointed up toward the sky, right as the sound of a screaming jet came approaching. If you could not pick up on Z context, you would have realized I'm not alone sooner. Prepare to die. RC's optics darted up and her face fell in fear before screaming, everybody, down. She hurriedly rushed toward her human companions and the freed civilians, covering them with her body while Shoto created another ice wall to block whatever bombardment came their way. However, the organics were all surprised when the ice wall was covered in more ice. Granted, it was jagged, rather dangerous looking ice, but ice nonetheless. And thankfully, it was nothing Shoto couldn't handle. What the, he uttered before unleashed a massive burst of fire at the spires, melting them into unthreatening puddles in moments. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. THOOM. But the process was suddenly interrupted as their attacker transformed and landed right beside them, towering over them all. He was a tan and purple bot who, much like Shadow Striker, had a blue face with a monocle-like optic. However, the heroes quickly noticed that he had both jet and tank parts on him, meaning only one thing. Oh god, a triple changer. Ochako uttered. We're in trouble. A very quick deduction, Fraulein. The large Khan said. Quite impressive, for an organic. RC's features twitched in fear. BBB Blitzwing. Oh, I really don't like that name. Jinx remarked. The blue-faced Khan's lips twitched before, WHRRTSCHZZCHKT*. His countenance shifted entirely, rotating into a silver face with a squared-off jaw and a blood-red visor. As you should, human filth. Because once I'm done with you, you will truly know the meaning of the word, Blitz. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. Within seconds, Blitzwing transformed into his tank mode, the inside of the barrel lighting up with bright red energy. Move. This way, now. Budo hollered to the citizens, leading them away right as Blitzwing unleashed several blasts upon them all. The blasts melted through not just Shoto's ice, but also all of the asphalt and rubble surrounding them. Ahahaha. Hell yeah. Professor Princess cheered on. Destroy it. Destroy it all. But, just as Blitzwing was about to really get going. Pow ** pow. RR rough. Rough. Rah RRR. From above, Fangblade and Sabak were launched down and pounced onto Blitzwing, the latter biting into his tank barrel while the other clawed into his armor plating. Bah. Cursed mini-con scraps. I will reduce you to atoms. Once more entering robot mode, Blitzwing quickly grabbed the duo and went to crush them in his hands, only for something big and green to come down from above and kick him in the head. Clang! Aya! Springer landed on his feet and plucked his mini-cons from out of the air, the duo reattaching to his shoulders. Resting next to his head was Snipe, who already had his revolver out and pointed at Blitzwing. Not a chance, Blitz brain. he quipped. Besides, we've got better things to do today than die. Ooh, now that's a nice line. Snipe commended. Thanks. It's kind like my catchphrase. Pulling out his swords, Springer advised the cowboy, I suggest you get off me, though. This could get ugly. *WHRRTSCHZZCHKT** Blitzwing, meanwhile, had gotten up and switched to his dark, crazy expression, letting out a hysterical laugh. Ooh-hoo-hoo. Well, if it isn't my first knock-off. I'd ask how you're doing, but how you're going to be is what will matter more in a second. Ahahaha. He saw Snipe hop off and make haste, causing the crazed triple changer's attention. Ooh, and you have a little cowboy friend. Let's see how he likes lightning. Whipping up his blaster, Blitzwing unleashed an electric blast at Snipe, but before it could make contact, Budo got in the way and deflected it with his energy sword. You're not hurting any more people today. Ah, spoil sport. Professor Princess groaned as she rode in on powdered sugar, waving her wand to unleash a paralyzing blast. I'll get you, gah. But she was suddenly thrown off course when a wall of fire erupted in front of her, earning Shoto her ire. Oh, you do not know what you've just done, pretty boy. Pretty sure I do. The half-cold, half-hot user assured. Jinx, Uravity, get the people to safety. By that point, the bots were locked in close quarters combat, with RC hollering, right. They're the priority here, go, now. Ochako nodded without hesitation. Alright, good luck. As she led the civilians away with Jinx, however, she added in her mind, and please, don't die. In another part of the city, meanwhile, Strongarm and Flare-Up's team were in a fairly similar situation, also helping a bunch of trapped civilians. The main difference being that these people had been boxed into a particular street, trapped by walls of cars stacked on top of one another. Who would have the patience to do this? Itsuka questioned. We'll find out soon enough. Flare-Up assured, zooming up to the top of one of the walls. She peered down over the side and saw, of all bots, Swindle at the bottom, and he was accompanied by a man in a black and orange jumpsuit with an engine backpack. She quickly zoomed back down to avoid being spotted and said, it's Swindle. He and that speedy human are on the lookout. Only them? Eraserhead inquired. Seems a bit low on numbers for a stunt like this. Strongarm nodded. Agreed. They don't seem like they could set all of this up by themselves. Neat observation. The group did a double take as the sound of whirling propellers came in from above, and there, Swift entered from seemingly out of nowhere. The lieutenant transformed and dropped down just 15 feet away from them, a hand settled on her hip as she smirked confidently. The walls were my idea, by the way. The team of bots and humans all took combative stances, with Itsuka remarking, well, great, guess we have to deal with the snarky one with the crazy powerful mini-cons. Swift's smile widened at the redhead's sarcasm. Flatter won't get ya far with me, princess. But what it will get you is a beating. Dueler. Landslide. Drill bit. On her cue, the Destruction Mini-Con team all came falling down from the top of the wall, landing directly behind the team. Haha. Like our little prison complex? Dueler asked. Made specifically to keep fleshies in bulks like you out. Hoo-hoo, and, we did real good puttin' it together. Landslide added as he made his saw blade spin. So we ain't, Buddha let ya tear it down. Kamakura and Tiger Claw, however, weren't about to take no for an answer. The former began to transform, lightning crackling all over his body as he took on his grotesque, insectoid monster form. Gurrah, oh yeah, well, you'd better prepare to be disappointed. Right, TC. Flexing his hands, Tiger Claw brought out his claws and cracked his neck to the side. Yeah, because if you want something done right, Groa ARRR. Belting out an ear-splitting roar, he and Kamakura lunged forward at the mini-cons, who were left shocked as the duo shouted in unison. You do it yourself. Drill Bit attempted to stop them first, revving up his drill to intercept. I got him, I got AAAAHH. But he quickly regretted it as Kamakura unleashed a blast of electrical energy that threw him straight back into the wall of cars. Yous think so tough. Landslide bellowed, raising his saw at Tiger Claw. Yous don't even know da meanin' of da, ward. But Tiger Claw deftly dodged and bit into Landslide's other arm, swinging him around with little effort right into Drill Bit. I can't wit, these mooks. Dueler shook his head in disappointment before aiming his blasters at the approaching Joes. Take this, freaks. Bam Bam Ba Bam. Tiger Claw and Kamakura were finally forced to move as the blasts came their way, but in a quick blink of light, a certain scout had vanished, and then reappeared directly in front of Dueler, her foot reared back for a punt kick. Oh, you sneaky, ping, Bulk asterisk crash. The destruction team commander promptly crashed into his team and they were all plowed through the wall of cars, causing it to collapse all at once. All Swift could do was deadpan in aggravation. I knew we should have welded it. She clawed her hands and brought forth her energy powers, charging into the fray. Hang on, you little scraps, I'm comin'. Oh no, you're not. Strongarm hollered, going for her comlink. Sirs, it's time. Rolling their way through the city streets, the Minicon Council came speeding toward her aid, the trio having finished helping another group of humans nearby. You heard her, boys. Side hollered. Time to powerlink. The commander of the team transformed into his double machine gun form first, attaching behind Strongarm's head so that the gun settled on her shoulders. Heads up, cadet. Checkpoint called out, transforming into his gun form so that Strongarm could catch him in her right hand. Time for super mode. Anti-Blaze finished, transforming into his missile pod mode and attaching to the femme's left forearm. With a brief, blue glow encompassing her boy, Strongarm announced, Powerlink, complete. Before aiming her weapons at Swift's retreating form. Fire. Beweem. Rat-a-tat-tat. P-O-W-P-P-P-Pow. Chancing a glance behind her, Swift let out a loud scream at the bombardment approaching her, transforming into her vehicle mode to get some distance. The attack subsequently missed and put a massive hole through a nearby building, allowing her to transform and land next to her Minicon partners. Get up, you bozos. We've got work to do. She ordered. Dueler shook his head in frustration. Fine, but not 'cause we wanna. Speak for yourself. I feel like livin', Drillbit stated as he transformed and attacked a Swift's arm. Landslide followed suit, going on her left. Yeah, I don't wanna get scrapped, boss. With a relenting sigh, Dueler shrugged and hopped into Swift's back, transforming and attaching to give her his blasters. The lieutenant smirked maliciously as her body glowed green, and she announced, Powerlink, complete. Whirling around, she charged right at Strongarm, her arm weapon spinning with overwhelming power. Round 2, Headlights. With pleasure. GRAAAH. The pair charged in and collided with a pair of punches, which resulted in a concussive burst throughout the area. As all that was happening, Swindle and Nanosec were busy, the duo still shocked by the sudden intrusion. No. Swindle aimed his arm cannon at the approaching heroes and flare up. How dare you? Do you know how long that took us to? Clang. He was cut off by a quick strike from flare up, kicking him upside the head. Shut it, Swindle. She snapped. I need to let off some pent-up anger, and you're just the perfect bot for it. As the scout continued to pummel the hapless Combaticon, the heroes and Joes went straight for Nanosec, with Aizawa leading the way. Don't move, he said, activating his quirk. We outnumber you 5-2, Shum asterisk wop. Ow. Much to his shock, though, Nanosec simply closed the gap between them and punched him right in the stomach, sending him crumpling to the ground. Erase her head. Big Fist hollered. She saw the villain turn on a dime and start speeding between all of them, and while she managed to make her hand large, she didn't get to hit him before he hit her first. Gah. Oof. Ack. Nanosec came to a sudden stop, smirking down at her with a condescending gaze. What's the matter, little girl? Only now realizing you're in over your head. He pushed her away and nudged his pointy chin toward Aizawa. Bad enough your teacher didn't get the memo about us being quirkless. Oop. But within seconds, the speedster was suddenly tripped up by Aizawa's scarf, the erasure hero glowering at him. Trust me, that won't happen again. Ingenium, go. Taking the teacher's scarf, Tenya nodded. Yes, sir. Going at full speed, he quickly began wrapping Nanosec up in the tight garment, but just as quickly, Nanosec was spinning around in the opposite direction, unraveling himself before leaping up to escape. What? Hey, you're pretty fast, kid. But let's see you match this. From there, Nanosec began peppering Ingenium with quick yet potent strikes, many of which Tenya was about to counter. However, there were also some that found their mark, leading to Tenya trying to retaliate. Get off of me, you heathen. Eraserhead, Tiger Claw and Kamakura all went to try and help, but Big Fist raised her hand. Wait a second, I think I have an idea. Seeing a pile of rubble, Itsuka enlarged her fist and scooped it up, rushing around to make sure her aim was true. And, there. Throwing the rubble, she struck Nanosek right in the legs, making him crumple back to the street. Gia, UUUGH. This allowed Tenya to finally get a hit in, and with that, send Nanosek hurtling straight through a window. Crash. Ha. Yes, excellent, the engine user exclaimed, giving a thumbs up to Itsuka. Many thanks, Big Fist. The redhead went over and gave him a high five. No need for thanks, fellow class rep. Now come on, we've gotta get these civilians out of here, on the double. Eraserhead nodded without hesitation. Right, everyone, follow me. Single file. Of course, the single file order went unheard as the group of citizens ran right in the opposite direction of the fight between the Autobots and Decepticons, right up to the other wall of cars. Aizawa eyed the Joes and asked, "You two mind knocking down another wall?" "Depends," Kamakura said smarmily. "Will ya loosen up and actually hear GI? Joe out about recruiting at UA." The two of them glowered at one another for a moment, but Tiger Claw swiftly broke it up. "Can we not, right now? We're in the middle of a war zone here. Pettiness is far from what we need right now. Kamakura, with me." The insectoid man groaned and aided the feline man in knocking down the wall of cars, allowing the people to flee. As that was happening, Swindle had gotten knocked back into a building himself, and by that point, he was starting to get very aggravated. So, this is how it's going to be, His purple optics narrowed as he procured something from his subspace storage, a small stick-shaped device that he clicked open. He opened his hand and from the stick, poured out 3 tiny, red cubes. "Well, let's see how you like this." Flare-Up stopped in her tracks, astonished as Swindle shoved the 3 glowing cubes into his mouth. Wait, was that? Yahahaha. Just then, Swindle gave out a screaming laugh as his entire body stared glowing red, his optics shifting colors as well before he zoomed off and struck Flare-Up right in the chest. Seeing this, Itsuka gasped, shocked that the con artist now matched her partner's speed. Flare-Up. What was that he just ate? Tenya exclaimed. Ha. Why, just a bit of red energon. Swindle enlightened the humans, spinning the cube dispenser in his fingers before putting it back in storage. "I usually keep it on me just for quick getaways, but in this case, this works, too." "Gah, you cheeky," Flare-Up sneered, her inner core starting to power up. "Alright then, you wanna match speed. Then let's go fast." Swindle made a, "come at me," taunt in response. "Race ya, glitch." Chuman just like that, the two were off, speeding through the streets with red and blue blurs streaking behind them. The heroes were initially at a loss of what to do, but they quickly found new targets when a small battalion of Viacons swooped in from the air and landed, their weapons aimed right at them. "Halt! Hands above your heads," the lead Viacon ordered. "Make us." Eraserhead rebuked, rousing the team to charge in and fight. As that was happening, Sunstreaker's team had come to a bit of a roadblock. A rather terrifying roadblock. Rarely did the yellow Lambo brother ever freeze in fear, but this time, it was different. Bahahaha. Well, if it is not the little golden bot. Standing before him was the con who had nearly brought him to death's door just a couple months ago, along with the medic who seemed constantly at his beck and call, and both were armed to the teeth. Blastwave with his X12 scrapmaker, and Flatline was holding what could only be described as a syringe gun. "Where have you been?" Blastwave goaded. "Haven't seen much of you lately." "Perhaps he was traumatized by your little gift, my friend." Ha, Flatline suggested with a haughty laugh. "He was quite fortunate that his comrades were able to heal him with my medi gun, but I can assure you, that will not happen again." Trembling in place, Sunstreaker went to back away, but he felt a hand on his shoulder stop him, and he turned to see Eraser giving him a confident gaze. "It's all right, Sunstreaker. You are not alone, remember." "Yeah," Denki shouted up from below, giving his partner a thumbs up. "We're right by your side, dude. We'll make sure that dumbass doesn't fill ya full of holes this time." Abara, Kamui Woods, and Smintos all nodded in solidarity. But if anything, all that did was make Blastwave laugh. Ah ha ha ha. Very well. If all of you tiny baby humans wish to die with him, then I will not deny this. He hoisted his minigun as it started spinning. Prepare yourselves to be shot to ribbons by Destructia. However, a certain Joe wasn't too impressed. PFF'd, someone's compensating for something. Mackenzie rolled her eyes. This earned her a glare from Blastwave. What does tiny girl mean? Dude, just because you're insecure about how big you are doesn't mean you have to carry a huge gun around. The martial artists continued, wearing a knowing smirk. Blastwave doesn't know what you are talking about. The munitions expert smacked his hand against his chest. Blastwave is plenty big. He is huge, in fact. He pointed down at her. You are the tiny baby. Again with the tiny baby talk. Quick Kick shrugged off. Is that the only insult you're capable of? Or is that just your default? Clenching his metal teeth, Blastwave stomped the ground in anger. You are insulting me, little organic worm. Do you have any idea who Blastwave is? Blastwave is bringer of doom to cities all across Cybertron. And if you are not careful, he aimed his X-12 scrapmaker right at his aggravator. Then you will be next. While the rest of the humans were left panicking, Quick Kick was all but confident. Go ahead. Try. I bet I could outsmart you, piece of cake. Bah, enjoy your oil cake. Blastwave balked. But you would be wise to rethink your choices. Many have said they can outsmart me. All at once, his weapon began to spin up again. But I have yet to meet one who can outsmart Bullet. However, before he could properly unleash his Hellfire Storm upon her, Flatline intervened. Wait, mean Froon. He pushed the weapon aside, earning him a glare. Doctor, what is the meaning of this? Save your ammunition, Blastwave. Flatline wagged his finger. After all, it isn't worth wasting on such insignificant targets. Behind his faceplate, the medic wore an insidious smirk. After all, we have our own ally to deal with these pests. Blastwave's optics widened in realization. Ah, yes, we do we not? He lifted his head, craning it around in search for said ally. Stick-throwing man, where are you? His wording left everyone confused. Stick-throwing man. Abara questioned. At that moment, a new voice managed to spook the team from behind. He means, arrows, fair maiden. Which you are about to be very acquainted with. Thunk thunk thunk. The group whirled around to see 3 mechanical arrows having struck the ground behind them, and they were all increasingly beeping faster and faster. Watch out, Smintos warned, raising a wall of cement just in time, but only barely. The resulting blast sent the group flying backward, though the Autobots managed to catch most of them before they went very far. Smintos was the only one unmoved by the explosion, squinting his eyes as smoke and dust filled the air. Gah, oof, Denki exclaimed, landing in Sunstreaker's hand before something prickly landed on him. Of course, the painful sensation was excruciating, but it became less so when he realized that he'd caught Abara in his arms. The duo blushed, their faces mere inches from one another. Hey. Denki managed a shaky smile. Hello. Abara uttered, finding it the cutest thing in the world. Why does that dopey grin get to me so much? Kamui Woods and Quick Kick thanked Eraser for catching them before leaping down, joining Smintos to defend their group. Who goes there? Kamui yelled. Reveal yourself. Forsooth, my wooded foe. Thunk. Another arrow planted itself into the ground, though unlike the last ones, it had a tether attached to it. And, sliding down with his bow, came none other than the angry archer, who lifted his chin at the heroes in defiance. You find yourselves in the presence of Sir Aaron Archer III. However, my contemporaries refer to me simply as the Angry Archer. The team could only stare incredulously at him in astonishment. Seriously, Denki uttered. Indeed, youthful raw gabbets. The archer affirmed. Verily, I might come from an aristocratic upbringing, but my skills with the bow remained unmatched. Combine that with the incredibly technology provided to me by MECH and it makes for quite the threatening amalgamation, wouldn't you say? Sir, you're dressed like the Ren Fair is in town. Abara uttered. Of course, I'm all in favor of more classical costume designs myself, but you are leaning far too much into the Robin Hood aesthetic. Especially with the frankly corny as sin speech. With a dramatic gasp, the archer's hand flew to his chest in horror. How dare you, you thorn-covered wench. My heightened vocabulary was bequeathed to me through my proud, high-class heritage. Not that I would expect a low-class heathen such as yourself to understand. He brought out an arrow from his quiver and knocked it in his bow, causing a boxing glove to pop out of it. Now have it you. He let the arrow fly and Ibarra gasped as it flew toward them with astonishing speed. However, erg. Peeking an eye open, the Vine user was left stunned to see that Kaminari had actually caught the boxing glove arrow, with one hand. He was still grinning, but it was obviously a very pained smile as his entire body trembled against her. Did that look cool? He asked through gritted teeth. Despite herself, she couldn't help but smile at his bone-headed move. It did, but you really didn't have to hurt yourself to do it. Maybe not, but it won't be as bad as he'll be hurting in a few seconds. How did you catch that? Bellowed the angry archer. My arrows fly at least 5 miles an hour. It should have shattered your hand. Tossing the arrow to the ground, Chargebolt began charging himself up, his hair flowing up as his body crackled with lightning. Oh, trust me, I think my hand's broken. He narrowed his eyes at the archer in contempt. But for calling her a wench, you're about to be even more broken. With his statement making Ibarra's heart skip a beat, Kaminari thrust his hands out and exclaimed, indiscriminate shock. 1.3 million volts. Kirk Seekza 8 ppp. Ugh. The archer tried to move, but Kaminari made the lightning arc around and catch up to him in an instant, leaving him a charred, twitching mess. Now, before he can recover, Kaminari turned to Ibarra. Vine, just like we practiced. With a hasty nod, Vine joined her mentor, clasping her hands together. Right. Binding. Lacquered. Vine prison. With their exclamation, the two plant-based heroes unleashed an entrapment of thorny vines and splintery wood at the archer, which wrapped him up instantly, and caused him even more pain. Yahahaha. The thorns. The splinters. It hurts so much. Ah. He let out another shriek as Quick Kick came up and pumped her leg back, standing on one foot to prepare her ultimate attack. Oh, you don't even know the meaning of the word, hurt, yet. Hiya. Thwap with an emphatic high kick, Mackenzie sent the archer flying high down the street, landing in the road a few blocks down. Once he made impact, the vines and wood exploded, leaving him a battered, broken mess. The angry archer tried to get up, but his body just wouldn't take it. You, damned, rabble-arousers, As their human ally succumbed to unconsciousness, Flatline and Blastwave could only stare on incredulously, baffled by what they'd just witnessed. Well, that didn't work, the medic deduced. Ya know, you could have helped him. Erizar pointed out. Bah, like we should work with tiny, stick-throwing human. Blastwave balked. It disgusts me to even think about it. He brought Destruction back out and aimed right at the team. Now, back to original plan. The humans backed away, with Sunstreaker and Erizar taking the front while Smintos created another cement wall to protect them. I don't think so, Blastwave. The yellow Lambo twin hollered. Cuz lemme tell ya, you're in for a surprise. The only surprise that will be happening is seeing your head fly off. Blastwave roared. Now die. RRRRAT at the very second that Blastwave finally unleashed his attack, however, Sunstreaker raised his hand, revealing and activating the Polarity Gauntlet. And once it switched on, all of the bullets flying at them were brought to a halt in midair, much to the Decepticons' shock. What? See. Surprise. Sunstreaker began spinning his wrist, causing all of the bullets to spin in unison and be collected into a giant sphere of ammo. He then reeled his arm back and thrust forward, sending the bullet ball back at the cons. Erizar. Go. Spreading her wings, Erizar took to the skies. It would be my pleasure. She circled around the Decepticons and shot at them with her wrist darts, ensuring they had no chance to get away. And then. Cha-kum. Sunstreaker brought the bullet ball down upon them, sending Blastwave and Flatline hurtling in opposite directions. Their bodies billowed with dark smoke, parts of them even catching fire as they hacked and coughed. Hawk hawk. Blastwave. Flatline choked out. Are you still functional? Hawk hawk. Of course, Blastwave is functional. The Decepticon bruiser got back to his feet. It will take a lot more than that to stop. But upon the smoke clearing, Blastwave was greeted with a horrifying sight, his precious weapon hadn't been so lucky to survive the blast. His X12 scrapmaker was now in bits and pieces all over the place, scorched and even melting into hot slag. Destruction. No. Ha. Yeah, how do you like that? Quick Kick taunted. Ya get what you deserve, ya big asshole. But then, Blastwave shot her probably the most terrifying glare she had ever seen in her entire life, causing the martial artist to back away a bit. Did I say something? Doctor. Blastwave got to his feet, his metal teeth grit together in pure rage. Charge me, NOOOOWW. Flatline immediately switched to his medi gun, not wasting any time. Of course, my friend. It's time for some payback. His weapon began to charge up with a mysterious, red energy, and from there, he shot it directly into Blastwave's back. The red energy then merged with Blastwave's entire being, going so far as to seemingly change his colors, from green and blue to red and black. You've brought these upon yourselves, dumbcoffs. Lowering his back-mounted cannons over his shoulders, Blastwave began unleashing a barrage of powerful blasts. The Autobots and heroes were forced to flee in terror as he ran at them and roared, YYYYYAAAAAGGGHHH. I am bullet PROOOOOOF. Not too far away from where Sunstreaker and the others were running for their lives, Bulkhead and Sideswipe's team were forced to split in halves to deal with two separate threats. On one end of the street, Colossus Rhodes had toppled over a prison transport bus, freeing all of the criminals and villains on board. He had quickly coerced them into his employ and told them to attack, their first targets being the heroes who threatened their one chance at freedom. Meanwhile, Bulkhead and Sideswipe were dealing with a battalion of Viacons on their own, though that proved easier said than done. Leaper incoming. Bulkhead hollered, he and Sideswipe splitting off to avoid the giant foot soldier. But it proved to be too quick as it used its jump jets to propel itself toward Bulkhead, ramming into him full force and send him careening into the nearest building. Seeing this, Mina let out a horrified gasp. Bulkhead, no. The distraction proved useful to one lowlife, who snuck up behind her with a knife in hand. Might wanna worry about yourself, kid. Crack, Gia ha-houch. Whirling around, Mina's eyes widened, watching Midnight quickly disarm the criminal and then kick him in the head, bringing him down to the ground under her foot. And you'd better watch yourself, she retorted, digging her heel into his crying face. Bad boy, her icy blue eyes directed themselves toward Mina with a stern gaze. But he has a point, Alien Queen. Get your head in the game and focus on what's important. Bulkhead's a big bot, he can take care of himself. Swallowing hard, Mina steeled herself and took a deep breath, nodding to her teacher. Alright, sorry, she saw one villain in particular who had a very rocky body, and he was currently giving the boys a hard time. Gah, how's he this tough? Red Riot belted out, pummeling the rock man with his hardened fists. Dude, just go down. Can't break through. Real Steel huffed, starting to get winded. Course you kids can't do nothing. The rock man grabbed the teens' fists and redirected them toward each other's faces, making them stagger back. You're still green. It'll take years, 'fore you can break through me, hiss asterisk, huh. What's that tingly, yeah. The villain let out an agonizing scream, bouncing between his feet as they were burned by the acid underneath him. Eijiro and Tetsu were taken aback, that is until Mina hopped in between them. Now that should soften you up real good. The spiky redhead gave her a thumbs up. Alright, Alien Queen. Nice one. Thanks. Mina winked. Now finish him off. Finding his second wind, Tetsu's steel hide began to shimmer, his fists clenched with anticipation. Hey, with pleasure. Gra ahh. Eijiro joined him in his battle cry as they aimed a double punch directly at the rock man's face, sending him crashing into the melting road. He continued to scream in pain until he fell unconscious, to which the boys pried him out and tossed him back toward the prison bus. With a shared high five, the teens exclaimed, yes. Nice. Very good. Midnight commended as well. You all did well dispensing with that one. She jerked her thumb over toward the large pile of men and women in orange jumpsuits, all of whom were completely asleep. Now, let's get all of them back on that bus. As that happened, Crust was busy dealing with Colossus Rhodes himself, the enhanced villain doing his best to beat the smaller man down. You sure you don't wanna give up, small fry? He taunted between heavy hits. Last chance, before I sick my pals over there on ya. Crust wasn't about to relent, however, using his shields to withstand Rhodes' bashing. You're all talk, Rhodes. You might want to take a second look. Peering over to the side, Rhodes' eyes widened at the sight of Midnight and the kids loading all of the unconscious prisoners back onto the bus. Oh, you've gotta be, what a useless bunch of, chink. Gah. He was preoccupied long enough for Crust to come back with a swift strike to the side of his head, his rugged shield leaving a long cut across his cheek. Why you little? Wrong, you're the one who's little. Crust brought his hands together, melding his shields into a long, jagged blade. A little man hiding behind body-enhancing chemicals. Well, I'm about to end your charade. He went to leap up and over Rhodes, but the large man proved deft on his feet, spinning out of the way before the makeshift sword could slice into the pylons on his back. He then swung his arm down and struck Crust in the side, bashing him into a nearby streetlight. Nice try, but no dice. Like I'd let you even lay a finger on my injectors. Besides, they've been reinforced, so good luck even trying to pierce. RYAAAAARRK. CHHHHHZZZPP. Ag. As it turned out, however, something did manage to pierce through the devices in his shoulders. And, to everyone's shock, it was Erizar, having flown in with her talons open to claw into them. The Maximal flapped her wings and spun through the air, tossing Colossus Rhodes straight toward Crust, who finished him off right as the muscular man began to shrink back to his normal size. Crack. With one good punch, Rhodes was out like a light, leaving everyone both relieved and taken aback. Erizar. Jiro exclaimed. Where'd you come from? You're supposed to be with Sunstreaker's group, right? Mina added. About that, maximize. With a loud screech, Erizar reassumed her robot mode and pointed down the street. We have trouble incoming, fast. All heads turned in the aforementioned direction, and what the humans saw left them terrified. Sunstreaker, no doubt with his team all piled inside his vehicle mode, was being chased down by a rampaging Blastwave, his body glowing with red and black pulsating energy. Said energy was being supplied by Flatline, who was struggling a bit to keep up. I will kill you AAAAAALL. The Decepticon brute bellowed. Immediately, the humans began to back away in fear. What the hell? Tetsu stammered. The heck did you do to get him so pissed? We destroyed his gun, Erizar answered. Mina winced before whirling around, calling out to her partner again. Bulk. Code Red. We've got Blastwave incoming. By that point, Bulkhead had recovered a bit, and he spun around the moment he heard Mina's cry for help. And once he saw Blastwave's state, he knew exactly what he had to do. But at the same time, he still had Viacons shooting at him. Scrap. I need to get over there. Then you need a getaway plan. Sideswipe gave a thumbs up. I'm on it. Before Bulkhead could protest, Sideswipe leapt over the barricade of cars they'd made and began summoning all of his power, which shot straight into the sky and came back down in the form of his cyber key power. In an instant, his dual swords sprouted from his arms and his wheels shifted down, allowing him to zoom straight into the fight and blow right past the Leaper. Bring it on, slagheads. The Leaper, meanwhile, launched itself straight at Bulkhead, but in this, the green Autobot saw an opportunity. He ducked right as the Leaper was about to stab down with its massive claw, and then, he grabbed it before whirling around and tossing it at his rival. Heads up. Hearing that, the humans all ducked and Sunstreaker swerved out of the way, the Leaper colliding with Blastwave. But rather than get toppled over, Blastwave instead caught the Leaper and indiscriminately tore it in half with his bare hands, leaving everyone gobsmacked. Grah. Bulkhead. Is that the best you've got? Hardly. Bulkhead brought out his maces, bashing them together before charging in. I'm just getting started, you spawn of a glitch. As the two ran at one another, Erizar took the initiative and ushered the rest to move out of the way. Come, we need to get clear and, choom. But in an instant, the team found their way out blocked, a certain pair of Decepticon seekers having flown down and landed on either side of their path. HMPH. What a disappointment. Skywarp balked, seeing Colossus Rhodes' motionless body. And here I thought our alliance with these MECH people would be more beneficial. He gave a simple shrug. Guess the best we can hope for is the others not being so useless. Yeah, we kinda already took out the arrow guy. Sunstreaker commented. Of course, you did. Skywarp procured his shotguns and aimed them at the group. Well, time to do what we do best, right, Thundercracker, Thundercracker. Looking to his brother, Skywarp was baffled to see that he didn't have his pulse rifle out. In fact, Thundercracker wasn't armed at all, the cybercaliber missing from his grasp as well. And the Blue Seeker's red optics were trained downward, onto a certain skimpily dressed heroine. Oh, Primus, you've got to be kidding me. Miss Midnight, Thundercracker addressed. It's been a while. Midnight herself was nearly at a loss for words. The fact that he remembered her at all was one thing, but that he didn't show any signs of putting up a fight was another. Thundercracker, she muttered. Hi. The others were left to stare at the scene in silence, and Tetsu wasn't afraid to voice their thoughts. What the hell is going on? In a much farther flung corner of the city, Windblade and Grimlock's team were making their way through, stopping rogue villains where they could while also keeping an eye out for Decepticons. Windblade herself had taken to the air along with Yukio to observe from above, while Grimlock carried Keita, Setsuna, Momo and Edgeshot on his shoulders throughout the concrete jungle. Man, this city is massive. Setsuna commented. Yeah, kinda shocked we were able to stop any villains at all, honestly. Keita concurred. With how dense this place is, you'd mistake it for Tokyo. Edgeshot shook his head, however. HMPH, you've obviously never seen all of Tokyo, then. Compared to there, this place might as well be a simple town. He spared the two reptile-loving girls a glance. But stay focused. You never know when a new threat could show. KCCH, Grim. You've got cons coming at 12 o'clock. Windblade chimed in through the comlink, making the Dinobot come to a halt. With his gaze locked straight ahead, Grimlock lowered his body down so that the humans could hop off. Sure enough, 3 large tanker trucks approached them from directly down the road, and they were coming in fast. Leapers. I'll handle this. THOOM. Just then, Yukio came in for a landing right next to him, her wings spread in a defensive stance. You mean we will? And they're not alone. There's a larger group of smaller cons coming from behind. The sounds of roaring engines greeted them as more elite Viacons came zooming toward them, prompting Momo to create a rifle from her person. Everyone, keep your guard up. We don't want to risk getting underfoot of any of these cons, she advised. On that note, Setsuna started using her quirk to separate her body parts, making herself float in the process. Way ahead of ya on that one. They can try to crush me, Keita added as her body began morphing, with her ankylosaurus tail and back armor emerging. But they ain't gonna crack this shell. The elite Viacons transformed and attacked first, keeping their distance with long-range blasts. Of course, that method didn't last too long as Windblade came down from above and immediately sliced one in half with her Stormbringer's sword. Attack, she ordered. From there, the rest followed her lead and charged in, though each used different tactics. Momo and Setsuna had teamed up, the latter disorienting and surprising the Viacons with her bizarre antics while the former shot out their optics. Then, the heavy hitters came in. Keita used her club tail to smash through the cons' legs, bringing them down to her level before doing the same to their arms. Edgeshot's methods were, of course, much quicker and precise thanks to his quirk slicing through them with little effort. As that happened, though, the Leapers all transformed and jumped into the fray, only to be immediately blocked by Grimlock and Yukio. The draconic heroine beat her wings and flew up to avoid one of them, only to then grab it with her claws and bring it into the air with her. I heard your type are tough, she remarked, grabbing onto its arms. Well, let's see how tough you really are. Within seconds, the Leaper's limbs had been plucked off one by one, screaming in pain all the while. Og, no, we're not supposed to. Surprising, isn't it? Yukio growled, bringing her face close to its own. Underestimate a species too much and it'll come back to bite you, literally. Chomp clamping her jaws around the Leaper, she shook it around before throwing it across the city. Down below, Grimlock had seen the whole thing, even as he handled the other 2 Leapers. Ha, very nice, Miss Yukio. He complimented. I can see why Keita admires you so much. I appreciate that. Yukio lowered herself back down to the surface. Need some help? No, I've got it from here. Besides, all at once, Grimlock's blue optics became red. I think it's time I show you what I can do. Grrrah! Flexing his arms, Grimlock threw the two leapers back from whence they came and slammed his arms down onto the pavement, his body contorting in transformation. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*, RRRAAAAAOOOOORR. The cacophonous roar made the entire battle stop for a second, Viacon and Hero alike whipping their heads around to witness Grimlock in his Tyrannosaurus mode. Ahaha. Hell yeah. Kata slammed her tail on the road eagerly. Go get him, Grim. That's what he transforms into. Edgeshot exclaimed, his eyes wide in wonder. Hell yeah. Setsuna pumped her fist into the air. He's a motherfucking T-Rex. Yukio herself was so speechless that she found herself going back into her human form, her mouth agape as she witnessed the awesome sight. Astounding. Gra triple AURRRR. Me, Grimlock, destroy. Charging in, the Dinobot instantly opened his maw and unleashed his fire breath attack upon the leapers, who tried to turn and run in fear. But by then, the white-hot flames had already burned through their armor well and good, even going so far as to melt their joints together. Falling to the street, the only thing the pair could do was scream as their doom approached. Stupid leapers. Me Grimlock will show you what happens to stupid Viacons. Ignoring their cries for mercy, Grimlock proceeded to tear them limb from limb, their terrified voices eventually becoming static as their voice boxes were consumed. And all the heroes and Windblade could do was watch in utter astonishment. Wow, he is brutal. Yukio commented, giving her protege a questioning eye. I certainly hope you don't mimic that behavior, Kata-chan. A nervous sweat dripped down the Sauroparts user's forehead. Aha, why yeah, Grim can be pretty unforgiving when it comes to cons. But that's only because he doesn't like bullies. A sentiment I can agree with. Yukio went over and, without any fear whatsoever, touched Grimlock on the leg. The Dinobot whirled around and growled, only to stop short when he saw the blonde heroine. Don't you think you've eaten your fill, Grimlock? Me Grimlock making sure job is done. And I think you've done that thoroughly. For now, we should keep moving. The T-Rex grumbled a bit, but ultimately relented. Yes, we go no, ow. Crumble ble just then, something came up from under the street and threw Grimlock onto his side, causing Yukio to stumble back with a scream as well. She managed to recover herself, but her eyes widened at the massive pair of jaws that emerged from beneath the ground, accompanied by another loud roar. Ryukyu. Kata hollered. Get out of there. The dragon hero sprinted away just as the Decepticon, or rather, the Predacon, fully arose, shaking off any remaining dirt from his back. Ha ha ha, I knew hiding in the sewers would make the perfect ambush. The huge, metal crocodile laughed. Skullcruncher, terrorize. WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. Assuming his robot mode, Skullcruncher took his massive tail and transformed it into its sword mode, confronting Grimlock directly. Now I've got you right where I want you, ya Dino Dolt. Grah. Skullcruncher bad. Grimlock went back into his robot mode as well, producing his own sword in the process. That blade is amazing, Edgeshot commented. Momo nodded next to him. None can really compare. Get him, Grimlock. Make him regret ever giving us trouble in the woods. As the two hulking bots clashed their blades together, Skullcruncher spared Momo a brief smirk. Hey, oh, trust me, girly, I'm the last bot you'll need to worry about right now. Commander. They're here. Shium. Ah. The whole group let out a gasp as several flying Viacons suddenly swooped over their heads before transforming in midair. And they were led by an unfamiliar jet, colored purple and teal. The aircraft performed a sharp mid-air flip before transforming as well, revealing a rather curvaceous femme, with a seeker body type. Excellent work, Skullcruncher. She spoke in a sultry voice as she hovered down to make a landing, strutting her way toward the group of humans. It seems you're quickly earning your stripes. Oh, and what's this? Her optics focused onto the resident city speaker, her mouth wide open in shock. Dear, do close your mouth, you don't want anything nesting in there. No way. Windblade's stunned expression quickly shifted to contempt, her teeth clenching and her fists tightening. Slipstream. Momo's eyes darted between the winged femmes. Windblade, you know her. Stepping in front of her partner, Windblade raised her sword, pointing it at the Seeker. Unfortunately. Stay back. Oh, come now, Windblade, is that any way to greet me after such a long time? Slipstream asked with a snide grin, her optics shifting toward the ladies and edge shot. And I see you've brought your little pets. Lay so much as a finger on them and I can guarantee your destruction. Slipstream scoffed at the notion. TCH, please, as if I'd handle these pathetic organic heroes. I'll be leaving that to my Viacons, and my own organic ally. She craned her head up as the sound of approaching helicopter rotors suddenly began to grow closer and closer. What does she, Setsuna's question was answered as a MECH helicopter came flying in from around a nearby building and sharply came in for a landing. At first, Edgeshot and Yukio were set on grabbing the kids and sprinting away, but then, something surprising happened. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. The chopper transformed into a tall, dark, imposing robot, one who looked rather rudimentary for a transformer. The legs had extended down from the undercarriage, with the landing skis becoming the feet. The arms, meanwhile, shifted out from the stabilizer wings, and they weren't hands, they were claws. The tail of the vehicle split in half and swung down flush against the back, while the cockpit formed the chest. And finally, the head was sleek and simple, with no facial features to speak of. There was only a silver faceplate and a dark red visor. Kata did a double take. Now who's this guy? Not any con I've ever seen. Grimlock remarked between strikes against Skullcruncher. Soon after, however, the group received their answer, but that's because I'm not a Decepticon. The familiar voice gave Windblade pause, and Momo was left utterly petrified as their sights went down to the cockpit chest. Because there, sitting inside, was none other than the leader of MECH himself. Greetings, all, he smirked. Let the games begin. Trembling in place, Momo could only stutter out, SSS, Silas. Hiya, Ra AAGGGHH. Aj. DIIIEEE. Sha Va Kum. Out of the entire group he was a part of, Snake Eyes was the only silent one. Granted, it was for obvious reasons, but it was also because he was much more restrained in the way he fought. The Viacons couldn't have guessed his immense strength until it was too late. But Deku, Mirko, Earphone Jack and especially Bakugo were making no qualms with giving it all they had against their adversaries. And to be fair to them, the ninja understood why. This fight was a very personal one for Izuku and Kyoka, while Mirko and Bakugo were inherently chaotic beings. Still, it was a fact that their behavior was laden with risks, and he and Jazz both knew that to be true. Guys. The Autobot lieutenant spoke. Think you might wanna dial it back a bye. Come in, get some, ya little bitch. Roadbuster suddenly belted out, firing his rifle into a crowd of approaching Viacons. Rat-a-tat-tat. Jazz's shoulders slumped and he shook his head, with Snake Eyes silently facepalming. Why'd I even bother tryin'? By the time all of the Viacons were left in bits and pieces, Izuku and the others were out of breath, their shoulders heaving as they took a moment's respite. The only one who wasn't winded at all was Mirko, who had stopped hopping around and was jogging excitedly in place. Oh ho ho, yeah. That's what I'm talking about, kids. She encouraged. That's how you kick some ass. I've lost track, Kyoka said, looking up to her best friend. How many waves have we taken down so far? I think that might have been the fourth one, Izuku replied, retracting his helmet. I kinda lost track, too, honestly. Well, I counted 5. Katsuki grumbled, still ticked off as always. You'd think these assholes would take the damn hint by now. Roadbuster approached the group, kneeling next to them with his gun propped on the ground. Yeah, well, that's Viacons for ya. They don't quit unless they're told to quit. Until then, best to just keep going through them like sheet metal. Woo 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 woo. The sound of an approaching siren made everyone's ears perk up, and Bakugo whirled around to see a squad car speeding toward them. What are the cops still doing here? This is a war zone, damn it. Izuku and the others, however, knew exactly why that police car was there. The fact that they could see, to punish and enslave, written on the side as it skid to a halt was all the evidence they needed. Kachan, move. That's not a police. Asterisk WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. But it was too late. Transforming and rolling onto his feet, Barricade brought out his laser rifle and shouted, "Freeze!" before firing at the group. And if that wasn't enough, more Viacons quickly showed up behind him, all firing at the same time as well. The humans dove for cover, with Katsuki screaming, "What the fuck?" They disguised themselves as cops. "Yeah, it's pretty low, isn't it?" Kyoka agreed, her eyes darting up to the bots. "Any ideas?" "Just one," Jazz said before ushering the bigger Autobot to follow. "Rhodey, with me. Kids, stick behind us." The two bots stood firm in the face of the incoming fire, with Jazz bringing out his subwoofers on his shoulders. "Rhodey, hold me in place. Kyo, come on up and plug in." On it. Starting behind his foot, Kyoka began climbing up to Jazz's shoulders, making sure to keep her head low as she plugged herself in. "You ready?" "You know it. Let's give him a show." Jazz activated his speakers and, all at once, an immense sonic blast was unleashed from them, Kyoka's quirk amplifying the sound tenfold. Jazz was almost blown backward, but thankfully, Roadbuster was enough to keep him braced. And in a single second, the Viacons and Barricade were left convulsing on the road. "Aight, that's enough." Jazz cut the sound and called out, "That was your first warning, Barricade. Get outta here and, we won't have to do anything worse to ya." Kyoka peeked her head up and shouted, "And tell us where Soundwave is. We've got a bolt to pick with him." Barricade bat the side of his head, clearing out his audio receptors as he bit back, "Huh. You think I'll just give up Soundwave and the others? Trust me, girly, you've got a lot worse stuff to worry about than where they are. VRRROOOOOOOOOOMM." The earphone jack user covered her ears as a loud plane engine came whooshing in from almost out of nowhere, leading everyone to crane their heads skyward. Their jaws collectively dropped at the sight of a huge green bomber plane coming in for a landing, prompting Roadbuster to yell, "Scatter!" WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. THOOM. "Oh scrap." The wrecker muttered, suddenly feeling a bit unsure about their situation. Because standing before them was a hulking brute of a Decepticon, his singular, central eye staring right at them. Lugnut. The humans could only stare at the behemoth as he lumbered forward, the earth trembling with every step. "Ya know, he's a bot who does come off as a Lugnut," Mirko commented, while Snake Eyes took a firm stance next to her with his sword drawn. She wore an eager smile as she cracked her neck and readied herself for more jumping. "But it doesn't matter. You can just call me, the can opener, 'cause I'm about to crack open your metal ass. Your meaningless prattle does not threaten me, Earth Whelp," Lugnut said as he reached behind him, and took off his entire tailfin section, which transformed into a huge hammer with 4 spikes coming out of each end. He pointed at the group and declared, "Now, in the name of the great and glorious Megatron, surrender and be destroyed." I think that's supposed to be, be destroyed." "I know what I said." Lugnut cut Izuku off, the green-haired boy flinching. "Besides, I wasn't referring to you, heroic filth. The Autobots are my priority. I shall simply leave the rest of you, to the pretenders." The group of bots and humans were left perplexed at that, until... Boom. The team collectively gasped as the front of a nearby building blew up, before the entire thing then crumbled to the ground in a plume of debris and fire. And soon after, they heard the sounds of various conniving laughs coming through the smoke. Yahahaha. Rahaha. HM. Hee hee hee. Within moments, they saw 6 large silhouettes making their way through the wall of flames, each one grotesquely deformed in different ways. And once the mysterious figures showed themselves, it only reaffirmed how bizarre they were, and Izuku recognized them immediately. It's them. The mutants we saw through the Sky Spy. Wah, you knew about us already, pendejo. The purple lizard bemoaned. That's no fair. And, here I was hoping we'd cause a little terror, Who or, what are your freaks? Katsuki belted out. Stepping forward, the octopus mutant wearing scuba gear spoke up. Yes, that's right. Allow us to introduce ourselves. He placed a hand upon his chest. I am Octopunch, the head of this motley crew. But I'm also known in certain circles as the Drifter. Next came the one with the bull-like skull head, smiling dementedly at the teens. I'm Skullgrin, the berserker of the squad. They call me, the Beast. Grah-ahh. The Rhino Man smacked his metal fists together. The name's Stranglehold. Interrogation officer's my specialty. But most just call me, the Bully. The Bluefish Man bowed to the do-gooders. I am Submaruator. Underwater specialist and expert tracker. So much so I am known as, the Tracer. Spreading the wings on his back, the Bat Mutant brought their attention to him. Munitions expert bomb burst at your service. I'm, the Trigger. Blahahaha. The Purple Lizard Man stuck his tongue out at the teens, making Kyoka and Izuku flinch. And I'm Iguanus, essay. But I've earned a reputation that's earned me a little nickname of my own, the Snake. Ahahaha. As Iguanus kept laughing, though, the teens were left perplexed more than anything. Wait, if you're, the Snake, then why aren't you a snake? Iguanus stopped mid-laugh, the question settling into his mind. Huh, you know, that's actually a good question. Why didn't I? Enough. Octopunch dismissed, getting Iguanus to shape up with just a wave of his hand. Together, we are the Pretenders. He declared, his yellow eyes gleaming at the heroes beneath his helmet. And we're here to snuff you out. Chapter 101, Gang on the Loose. Mount. Lady couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive as she and All Might drove through Mission City inside of Optimus. They had been searching for the Decepticon High Command for almost half an hour now and, much to their surprise, the most they had encountered was a few straggling Viacons. Some in small groups, some by themselves, but they all had one thing in common, they had no idea where their leaders were. And by that point, they figured out that it had to be intentional. Soundwave, Starscream and Unicronus were trying to mask their presence to make it harder to get to them. And it was making the blonde heroine worried. But of course, for the sake of her reputation, she couldn't let the #1 hero or the Autobot leader know that. So she did what she always did in most situations, mask her feelings. And in this case, she had chosen annoyance. TCH, we've been going in circles. You think we're getting any closer? I'm not certain, All Might admitted with a shrug. But so long as we keep clear of the other teams, we have to run into them sooner or later. Mount Lady eyed him in confusion. What do you mean by that? He means that there is no chance that Unicronus would bother himself with those he deems lesser. Optimus explained. His main target is me, after all, so sooner or later, he has to come out and show himself. All Might's smile widened in anticipation. Either that, or he sends in some higher-ranked lackeys out to try and subdue us so he can swoop in and finish us off easily. Yu's stare became incredulous at that. And that's a good thing. Indeed, Prime assured. Because those of a higher rank are guaranteed to know where Unicronus is. We simply have to negotiate with them to determine the location. And then, we can screech All Might and MT. Lady gasped as Optimus came to a sudden halt, his trailer jostling behind him. Picking her head up off the dashboard, MT. Lady grumbled, "Grr, okay, what was that all about? My apologies, but something doesn't feel right." Just then, Optimus opened his doors. Everyone out, and remain on your guard. Once the two heroes were out, Prime assumed robot mode and immediately opened his combat deck. From there, Roller and the Street Action Mini-Cons transformed as well, the former manning the turret. I'm getting a reading, Optimus. Roller sounded off, looking at the battlement's built-in radar. Several Decepticon signals, and it looks like they're boxing us in. All Might grit his teeth and balled his fists. TCH, a trap. With her head on a swivel, MT. Lady tried spotting them. How? I'm sure I didn't see any behind. Gah. Crash. Her answer soon came as 8 Decepticon leapers came bursting out from either end of the street, blocking off their escape routes. Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. Seriously. Roller. Optimus called out. Optics on the air. Right. Roller promptly shifted the combat deck's turret upward, extending it on its gantry arm to gain more height. Highwire, Sir Shock, Grinder, form a perimeter. The Minicon trio saluted and spread out around the structure, each of them taking a small blaster from the trailer's storage unit. Chium. Not a moment later, just as Prime anticipated, several airborne Viacons came screamed out from over the skyscrapers and dove down at them. We've got 'em now, one of them shouted. Unleash the Inferno. Pow 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 pow. While MT. Lady ran for cover, All Might leapt straight into the air and met the incoming fire head-on, slapping his hands together to propel him out of the way and speed straight into one of the Viacons. Nice try, Scrap Heaps, but you'll have to do better than that. Grabbing the Viacon by its wings, he used his momentum to spin it around through the air and toss it down into a leaper that had followed MT. Lady Gia. The heroine watched as the Viacon crumpled instantly, the leaper only getting knocked down. Serves you right. Now I get to do this. Within seconds, MT. Lady grew to her colossal height and stomped on the leaper, making sure to push it down into the pavement. What? Another leaper exclaimed, seeing its comrade get smushed. When did she, clash, ow. But its panic was cut short when Optimus took it by surprise and slashed across its back with his axe, blowing up its propulsion pack in an instant. Boom. What are you idiots doing? A Viacon landed and aimed its blaster at the group. We outnumber them. Blow them to bits. Pew 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 pew. Gaining their second wind, the Viacons followed their commander's order and started unleashing everything they had, while Optimus, All Might and MT. Lady continued to steadily and systematically take them down. The number one hero kept bounding between the foot soldiers with unbelievable speed, breaking through even the leapers' thickest armor plating with his fists alone. Texas SMAAAASH. Mount. Lady was much the same, only using her gigantic feet to blast through several Viacons all at once. Canyon Cannon. She bellowed, reducing the soldiers to a pile of scattered limbs all over the street. The mini-cons, meanwhile, were having a harder time holding their own. Roller for the most part was doing fine, keeping his turret constantly turning and blasting as Viacons came at him from all sides. And even then, he knew he wasn't in much danger since the combat deck's force fields were still holding up, at least, at the moment. Of course, laser blasts bounced off of it no problem, but leapers on the other hand. Wham! Shield power down by 25%, the combat deck's computer stated. Scrap. Roller clenched his metal teeth and shot at the leaper on top of the energy dome, only for each blast to bounce harmlessly off its heavy armor. Guys, I could use a hand here. Sir Shock gasped and whirled around, aiming at the leaper's jump jets. Boys, Roller requires our assistance. Grinder and High Wire immediately came to her aid and started shooting along with her, with 3 lucky shots hitting the exact same spot in the center of the large jetpack. Within seconds, they could hear the leaper's systems overloading, and not long after, it blew up, taking another chunk of the force field's power with it. Shield power down by 50%. Oops. Grinder scratched his cheek sheepishly. Grr. Slag. In his aggravation, Roller picked up the pace tenfold, going into rapid fire while whirling around at a speed that would put any helicopter to shame. I've gotta take out as many cons as I can before the shields give out. Seeing his distress, High Wire decided that a change in tactic was in order. Guys, forget the offensive. We've gotta keep those shields up. Transform and combine. Following his command, Sir Shock and Grinder merged into the main body of their combined mode, with High Wire finishing off with the head and shoulders. Power link complete. Safeguard online, they announced before leaping back onto the trailer and placing their hands onto the main control unit. In his rush, Roller managed to spot the combiner and shout, "What are you doing? Get back out there and keep fighting. Not until we get these shields back up." Safeguard insisted, plugging themselves into the combat deck. From there, they stared, pouring their power into its systems, giving it an extra boost to both the force field and the weapon systems. Shield power restored. Shield power up by 25%. Weapon power up by 50%. BWAAAAAAM. Roller let out a shout as his shot suddenly became a concentrated beam that managed to melt through several Viacons at once, reducing them to molten slag on the streets. It was even enough to burn holes through some leapers, too, incapacitating them for Prime to come in and finish them off with a hard punch through their chests. Whoa. Guys, stop. That's too much. Roller insisted. You'll overload the platform. Safeguard pulled their hands away from the console, raising them in surrender. Oops, sorry. Well, since you guys are together, why don't you go show them what you're made of? On it. The wheels on Safeguard's shoulders started to spin at extremely high speeds, causing energy to be conducted within their spokes. Then in an instant, the wheels tilted slightly downward and they were propelled into the air, flying straight toward the unsuspecting Viacons. Tink peng tonk ping. With their fist extended out, Safeguard soared through the crowd, punching many of them straight in the face. Excellent job, Mini-Cons. Optimus encouraged, launching an energy axe projectile out at another leaper with its back toward him, courtesy of All Might. We have them on the ropes. Oh, do you? Nye hee hee hee. The slimy-sounding voice prompted the group to snap their heads up, where they were met with an unwelcome sight. Gas Skunk, on top of a building, with his butt facing down toward them. Then maybe it's time I make a stink of things. Bahahaha. PPPPTBTBTBTBT. Much to the dismay of pretty much everyone under him, the skunk Predacon unleashed an absolutely foul odor throughout the whole area. The green gas cloud was high enough to even affect MT. Lady, who was unfortunately enough to be almost directly next to Gas Skunk at the time. Her complexion immediately changed to a sickly shade, almost as green as the gas itself as she fell to her knees. Hua, I can't breath. She shrieked, holding her nose and throat as her humongous body plummeted. Mount, lady. Optimus reached out to try and catch her, but ultimately, it was too late. Between the gas blinding his optics and clogging his sensory receptors, he couldn't hope to make it before the giantess fell right on top of his trailer. The force field held out, thankfully, but once she rolled off, she shrunk back down to her normal size, completely unconscious. Hawk hawk. This is abysmal. All Might shouted as he coughed up a storm, and plenty of blood in the process. His eyes watered and steam came off of his body, much to his dismay. And no, not now. Poof, all at once, the number one hero was reduced back to his true form as well, now swimming in his much too big hero costume before slumping to the pavement. As Viacons and allies dropped like flies around him, Optimus struggled to continue fighting. No, All Might, stay strong. Unfortunately, he also saw Roller and Safeguard succumb to the noxious gas as well, and he was slowly doing the same. Must push on, gah. All of a sudden, he felt something wrap around his left hand while his entire right arm was tackled by an unknown assailant, though his blurred vision could somewhat make out a blue and silver blob right next to him. Hee hee hee, you aren't going anywhere, Prime. Hoo hoo, ya, a deeper voice said with a slight lisp. De Getteral Wands ta hoff a B-word BWID to you. Dark scream, slapper. Prime tried his best to wrestle himself free, but it was no use. Their hold on him was just too tight. I will not. Asterisk WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT. Clang. Ow. But ultimately, Optimus was knocked down by yet another new arrival, and just before his optics deactivated, he could see Skybite looming over him. He, along with Slapper and Dark Scream, were all wearing gas masks as well, though there was no doubt that the Sharkticon was smirking at him underneath. Once more, a foolish Autobot succumbs to his unfortunate fate. After reciting his haiku, Skybite gave the Autobot leader a condescending wave. Nighty-night, Optimus Prime. Unicronus will be quite pleased to see you. Just before he slipped from consciousness, however, a smirk formed behind Optimus's faceplate. Good, that's exactly what I was hoping for. And, right as his head hit the ground, he saw All Might and MT. Lady also smiling, even despite the pain they were experiencing. Hold strong, my friends, we will end this soon enough. Meanwhile, Izuku and his group found themselves in a very similarly sticky situation. There were no rancid smells to be had, but the sight alone was rancid enough. The 6 mutants calling themselves the Pretenders all laughed with an air of superiority, as if they had already won before the fight even started. The only one who wasn't laughing was Octopunch, the leader of the group, standing with his arms crossed and his eyes locked on the opposing heroes. So, young ones, he said, his voice echoing through his helmet. Shall we get started, or are you going to make this easy for us? Why the hell would we do that, freakazoids? Kyoka bit back. Bakugo slammed his fist into his open palm, making a small explosion. Yeah, if you expect us to go down without a fight, you've got some rethinking to do. Ah, see, but there's the fun part, Submarauder said, pointing his sword at the explosion user. You might as well not put one up to begin with. After all, you will be going down so pitifully that the fight will be over before it even begins. In the face of this, Mirko wore a wild smile, her fists already balled up in anticipation. Oh ho, the posh fish is gettin' all haughty on us, Good, I was wonderin' if I'd be able to punch a smug bastard today. Behind the pretenders, Barricade couldn't help but balk at the rabbit hero's declaration. HMPH, you really don't understand the situation you're in, do ya, long ears? The corrupted cop opened his chest, allowing Frenzy to hop out. You're way outnumbered here. Hee, and we're gonna make sure this battle doesn't go like the one in the Rocky Mountains. Frenzy added before transforming into his saw mode and hopping into Barricade's hand. It's not just Energon on the line anymore. It's the fate of 2 planets. Lugnik grasped his hammer with both hands, almost chomping at the bit to get started. Yes, and this planet's fate will be subjugation under the great and glorious, Tonk, Ga. What in the name of, Lugnik stopped mid-sentence when he saw what clocked him in the head, an explosive that had fallen to the ground, and it was live. Grenade. Without any hesitation, he scooped it up and lobbed it into the air, and just a few seconds later. Ka-boom. It blew up, the concussive force causing several windows to shatter. The humans took cover from the falling glass as Lugnik refocused himself. Bah, who dares to, URK, but the moment he turned back, he found a gun barrel shoved into his shoulder. Me. Pulling the trigger, Roadbuster unloaded a shot straight through Lugnik's left side, blowing out several pieces of metal and circuitry all over the place. The Decepticon bruiser staggered back, in pain but bearing through it. Gah, Autobot filth, you will pay for your transgressions. He started wildly swinging his hammer at Roadbuster, who was surprisingly nimble as he bobbed and weaved away from it. He even started rolling away, peppering Lugnik's legs with gunshots all the while. Rat-a-tat-rat-a-tat-tat. But even so, the giant green con wasn't phased, and it was at that point, everyone else realized, wait, he's leading him away. Izuku uttered. Ha, holy scrap, he is. Jazz grinned, though he was also concerned. Rhodey, what the pit are you thinkin'? You got some sorta death wish. Don't worry 'bout me, Roadbuster asserted. Wreckers die all the time. And, if I can take this scrap heap down with me, then that'll be enough for me. Just waste the rest of those freaks for me. That's all I ask. Ow. The group were taken aback when Lugnik swung his massive hammer and knocked Roadbuster clean through a building, leaving a gigantic hole in it. Fool. You should listen to your compatriot. After charging through the building, and making the hole even bigger, Lugnik jumped and raised his hammer, aiming straight for Roadbuster's head. For you have indeed just signed your own death warrant. But just as the brute was about to hit him, boom asterisk, D-I-I-I-I-E-E-E. Katsuki screamed as he shot himself through the hole and caught up with Lugnik in an instant, before then shifting his aim right to the con's back. Ka-bam. Gog. Lugnik was promptly thrown off course by the explosion and crashed to the street, with Bakugo sliding into a landing right next to Roadbuster. The wrecker sat up, staring at the ashen blonde in astonishment. Kid, what the hell are you? Listen, we've already got a bot on death's door and only one of those stasis pod things to bring him back with. Bakugo snapped. And from what I understand, you're probably our best shot at getting through this crapfest with all those weapons you got, so wastin' 'em all on one guy is stupid as hell. Plus, I'll be honest, his lips curled into a smirk. You're probably the only other one I actually like on this damn team so far. The others were left to deadpan at his remark. Wow, way to be brutally honest, kid. Mirko grimaced. Roadbuster, however, couldn't help but chuckle at his honesty. Hey, alright kid, alright. I won't go dyin' all willy-nilly. Standing up, the wrecker reached behind his back and began digging around. And you've got a point. No sense in wastin' ammo when I can take the fight straight to ol' Lughead himself. Bakugo raised a brow up at him. What are you talkin' ab? Bah, but he was left speechless in an instant when Roadbuster pulled out a huge, collapsible hammer from his backpack, one that had 3 rockets attached to the back of its head. WWW. Holy crap. Mirko grinned maniacally at the sight of it. AHAHAH. Now we're talkin'. That thing has to be the second most badass weapon I've ever seen. Kyoka added, with Snake Eyes nodding next to her. Right next to Grimlock's sword. Roadbuster shouldered the giant hammer and chortled, "Hee hee, it's a Wrecker's standard issue weapon. Been a thing since Impactor lead the team all those eons ago. If ya think this one's impressive, you should see landmines." He hefted the hammer in two hands and readied his stance. "But enough talk. Time to kick some skid plate. Kid, you go handle those pretender goons. I'll stick round here and give Lugnut a taste of his own medicine." "You can try." Lugnut roared as he stood up again, his singular optic focusing in on Bakugo. "And you, boy, no one topples Lugnut in such an underhanded manner. For that, you shall perish." That simply made Katsuki scoff and shrug. "TCH, sure, but you'll have to get through the big guy first. And good luck with that. CHOOOM. All at once, the rockets in Roadbuster's hammer charged up and propelled him straight for Lugnut, who wasn't prepared for the attack and only barely managed to counter it. He raised his hammer in retaliation, digging in his heels as he was pushed backward. "Gah. You're gonna need it," Bakugo said before blasting himself back over to the main action. "Alright, assholes. Time to, ow." But right as he flew at the pretenders, ready to cause some more destruction, Stranglehold brought out his own hammer and swung it at him right at the last second, sending Bakugo sailing across the street. "Ah, Kachan," Izuku hollered, watching as his former friend slammed straight into a building. The Rhino Gladiator, however, was all laughs as he pointed at the now dazed boy. "Ahahaha. Guess that'll teach ya to look before ya leap, kid." He turned toward his leader, nudging his head toward the heroes. "Say that word, Octopunch, and we'll take these idiots out of the picture." "Hey, see, I'm chomping at the bit to get my claws on them." Iguanus agreed, scraping his poison-covered claw blades together. Izuku clenched his teeth, his anger steadily growing with each passing second. You bunch of assholes." He spat as he began powering up to 15%. However, before he could jump in, Mirko proved faster as she caught him by the back of his costume and pulled him back. "Gah, Mirko, what are you?" "Kid, as much as I'd love to watch ya go ham right now, I'm gonna have to step in." The rabbit hero insisted, yanking Izuku back to her side and pointing at the pretenders. "Don't get me wrong, I'm pissed at him, too, but some of 'em are way out of your weight class. I don't want you or your pals going anywhere near the octopus, the rhino, or that skeleton guy." Instead, she shifted his head toward the other half of the pretenders. "The lizard dude, the fish guy, and the bat look a lot softer. You guys could probably take him no problem." "Hey!" Bomb Burst shouted indignantly. "Who are you callin' soft? Big talk comin' from a bipedal bunny wobbit." Taking that as a challenge, Mirko responded in kind. "Big talk coming from a bipedal bitch." Bomb Burst clenched his teeth, only to open his mouth and unleash an absolutely ear-splitting screech. Kaya rrrrrr. The heroes were left screaming as their hands flew over their ears, Kyoka especially doubling over in agony. "Oh god, make him stop," she cried. Back with Bakugo, the screeching only served to get him even more angry, and his eyes snapped open before his hands ignited. "Shut the fuck up." Ka-boom! The sound of his blast managed to overtake the awful, high-pitched cry, and he propelled himself into the fray once again, this time taking care to watch his surroundings. When he saw Bomb Burst swing his battle axe up, the ashen blonde quickly somersaulted down to the ground and switched tactics, unleashing a potent blast right at the bat mutant. Bam! GGH. This time, it was Bomb Burst's turn to go flying, only instead, he still had control over himself. With a flap of his wings, he regained himself in midair and flew up, unholstering a laser gun from his side and taking aim down at Bakugo. "Oh, so that's how it is. Bring it on, kid. Let's see what you got." "Gladly." Boom! Katsuki rocketed straight up to deliver a straight uppercut to Bomb Burst, hollering, "Go to hell." Izuku and Kyoka were left staring after him, but that didn't last long as Submarauder and Iguanus lunged at the pair of them. "Gah, watch out." Izuku noticed them first and scooped Kyoka up, bounding away right before Iguanus' claws could slice into them. Hee. Nice reflexes there, essay. The purple lizard mutant's frills suddenly flared out as he opened his mouth wide. "But let's see you dodge this." With several loud belches, Iguanus started to hurl blobs of poisonous purple gunk at the pair, which only repulsed them further. "Oh, that is just wrong." Once they were on the ground again, Kyoka hopped out of Izuku's arms and plugged her jacks into her boots, unleashing a cacophony of her own at the reptile. Let's see how you guys like a taste of sound. However, Submarauder was already prepared. Not today, young lady. Torpedo, away. Aiming his rifle, the fish man pulled the trigger and shot out a whole missile at the punk rocker, making her gasp as it flew straight through her sonic attack. And it would have hit her, if it weren't for Izuku zooming in and kicking the projectile upward just in time. It careened right over Kyoka's head and plummeted straight into the nearby river, where it exploded harmlessly. Oh bull, ah. Sure enough, Kyoka's sonic attack hit both of the pretenders, reducing them to writhing heaps on the ground. But at the same time, Izuku was caught in the attack as well, which made Kyoka cut it short. Izuku. She rushed to his side and took hold of his shoulder. Hey, are you okay? I didn't hurt you, did I? Kyoka, it's okay. Izuku turned to her, revealing that he had activated his helmet just in time. Hatsume really thought of everything. This has a noise-canceling feature for any sound that's over 20 decibels. Kyoka sighed in relief. Phew, thank God. She stepped back as Izuku stood up, and in that moment, it really hit her just how much he had changed over just a few short months. He had grown a few inches, his sleeper build was growing much more noticeable, and of course, his costume had evolved into that of an homage to an icon. Damn, Kamen Rider Deku really is a reality now. The green-haired boy hung his head and sighed. Seems I'm never going to escape it, am I? Ah well, no going back at this point. Better to just roll with it. And on that note, he hovered his hand over one of the large buttons on the side of his belt. I think it's time we find out what this thing can really do. Izuku brought his hand down and slapped the button, causing the belt to blare out. Punch. Recoiling at the announcement, Izuku barely had time to say, what? Before suddenly feeling a surge of energy coursing up through his body. With his hands shaking, they started to crackle with bolts of energy. Whoa, is this? Izuku, move. It was Kyoka's turn to yank her friend away as Iguanus came back into the action, slicing down at them with his claws. Gah, would you quit moving? Opening his mouth, he started belching up globs again, leading the duo to hide behind a wall of rubble. Giving Izuku a stern look, Kyoka urged him, now might be a good time to actually use that power instead of gawking at it. Alright, sorry, Izuku apologized, only to mutter to himself, it feels like the belt's allowing me to tap into a new level of power. It feels similar to 100% of my quirk, but less overwhelming. Like I won't get hurt if I just punch him, chink, yow. Then punch him, please. Kyoka insisted after jabbing him. Right. Izuku's eyes darted back toward Iguanus as he approached, leading Izuku to jump up and over their cover. Hey, over here. Got a death wish, kid. Iguanus leapt at the green-haired boy with his arms raised and mouth wide open. Fine by me. But that's exactly what Izuku was hoping for. With a burst of speed, he shot straight under Iguanus, who did a double take. Hey, would you just stay still and dial Rhea? Detroit, SMAAAAAASH. With a straight uppercut, Deku unleashed his attack, socking Iguanus straight in the gut before a powerful gust of wind blew the reptilian pretender into the air. Yah! His scream made everyone's heads whip up, watching as he went sailing high into the sky. Iguanus. No. Submarauder glowered at Deku with contempt as he reloaded his torpedo rifle. You little upstart miscreant. Once he was ready, he charged straight for the young hero, gun and sword raised. Once I'm through with you, you'll wish you'd never come here. BWAAAAAAAMM. Yog. Submarauder was brought to a complete halt and dropped his weapons to cover his ear holes, earphone jack's ultrasonic burst causing him great agony. Sorry, tuna breath, but my friend ain't on your menu. Kyoka quipped. Deku, go. Right. This time, Deku slapped the button on his right hip, and within seconds, the energy flow redirected into his legs. Kick. The speed at which Izuku rushed forward could only be described as blinding, seen only as a green blur through the street as he shot back to the fish man. He slowed down slightly and jumped, somersaulting through the air so that he would come crashing down with a mighty thrust kick into Submarauder. Polyhex, SMAAAAASHH. But the aquatic pretender wasn't done. Not today. His gills suddenly opened up and a powerful jet of water shot out of them. But his target wasn't Izuku, rather, it was Kyoka. The stream of liquid struck her straight in the stomach, knocking the wind out of her and throwing her back several feet, into the river. And once Izuku saw this, his focus was completely broken. Kyoka, ah! Submarauder promptly swung around and grabbed Izuku by the leg, spinning around only to them fling him into another building. Ha! That ought to show you. Ah! Submarauder peered up just in time to see Iguanus falling straight down above him, to which he let loose another stream of water. This time, it was much gentler, allowing him to catch his companion and slowly bring him back down. Are you alright, my friend? Shaking himself off, Iguanus went, BL. Bah, ha, yeah, I'm fine, he directed his gleaming, golden eyes at Deku as he hastily stumbled out of the building. But he ain't gonna be. Submarauder nodded at that and the two parted ways, the fish man jumping after Kyoka while Iguanus clambered on all fours to his target. Izuku spotted the blue fish man first, and immediately went into a full sprint. No, Kyoka, hang on, The young hero slid away right in time to avoid Iguanus' snapping jaws, still dripping with poison. Ho, okay, I'll admit, didn't see that comin'. He pointed a claw at him. Ya nearly sent me into the upper atmosphere with that one, but lemme tell ya, it ain't gonna happen again, comprende? Gah, I don't have time for this. Deku raised his fists, eager to get this over with. Just get out of my way. I have to help. You're dealin' with me now, lil, bro. Iguanus insisted, furiously swiping his claw blades at Izuku. Not Submarauder. He's busy talkin', your little mamacita for a spin. Comma. And Iguanus' words proved quite literal as, down below in the river, Submarauder was swimming circles around Kyoka. So fast that, much to her dismay, he created a current that eventually became a small whirlpool. And what's worse was she was getting pulled down toward the river bed, where she would no doubt be buried under the silt and left to die. Fuck. She screamed in her head, cursing herself for letting Sue and Seaspray stay behind. They would have come in clutch in this situation. She almost lost herself to panic, but as her life flashed before her eyes, the teachings of her sensei suddenly kicked in. And she remembered one lesson in particular: don't give in to the fear you feel, center yourself and clear the storm in your mind. Focus, and you will find the way. Allowing herself to calm down, Earphone Jack extended her jacks down to her wrist-mounted speakers. And then, heartbeat, distortion, screaming out in her mind, Kyoka unleashed everything she had out in all directions as she spun around, causing the water itself to vibrate. Ow! Once again, Submarauder's hands went to his ear holes after the attack, losing control and slamming down into a large boulder. The whirlpool eventually stopped and Kyoka thrust her arms down, propelling herself up to breach the water's surface. Gaauuuuhh, hawk. She immediately regret the deep breaths she took, coughing up water almost instantly. Would you fucking stop flying in circles? The sudden scream made Kyoka quit her coughing fit and she craned her head up, seeing Bakugo flying through the sky with several tiny explosions. He was still chasing after Bomb Burst, who was relentlessly teasing him all the while. Hey, you're persistent, kid, I'll grant ya that. Spinning around in midair, Bomb Burst pulled off a laser rifle from his left hip. But you seriously gotta know when to quit. Pow. He pulled the trigger several times in an attempt to shoot Bakugo down, but the explosion user managed to weave his way around the blasts with precise blasts of his own. Then, as he sailed at Bomb Burst, he switched tactics and brought his hands forward, one palm facing forward and the other hand cupped against his palm. Now my turn. Let's see how y'all like this new move. Bam, sending out tiny concentrated explosions through his hand, Bakugo unleashed his new attack, AP. Shot. Wah-ah, yow, ack. Bomb Burst managed to dodge a few of the explosive pellets, but many still landed their mark, singeing his armor and fur. Oh ho, you think you can scratch me, kid? Well I oughta, youch. However, his threat was cut short when Bakugo used one final blast to close the distance between them, slamming full force into his chest and knocking them both out of the sky. And Kyoka was directly below them. Oh, shit, She started to swim away as fast as she could, only to realize that her fishy adversary had returned. Damn it. Don't you ever quit. Not in my lexicon, little girl. Now get back here before Gia. Splash. Coming to a stop, Earphone Jack stared wide-eyed as Bakugo and Bomb Burst splashed down into Submarauder, the two pretenders sinking down while the ashen blonde shot up to the surface. Ha! Take that, ya damn bat. Kyoko was at first taken aback, but eventually, hints of a smirk formed on her lips. Huh, didn't think you would be the one coming to my rescue. All at once, Katsuki's proud demeanor went away as he scowled at the punk rocker. PSH, please, you just happened to be at the right place at the right time. Speaking of, how'd you even get out here anyway? That fish guy's a royal pain, that's how. With that, Kyoko continued swimming toward the shore. Come on, this is not where we want to be right now. Begrudgingly, Bakugo followed, and in time, the two made it back to land, where they began to dry their clothes as best as they could. Alright, so that's one down. Ya mean two, right? Katsuki corrected. Pretty sure I sent both of those idiots packing. Rolling her eyes, Kyoko reminded him, dude, one of them is a fish. I'll bet he'll be back up any sec. Splash. See. What did I tell ya? Indeed, Submarauder had wasted no time swimming back up and jumping onto the shore, and he also had Bomb Burst slung over his back for good measure. The bat mutant hacked and coughed up water as his friend helped him stand, the fish man patting him on the back. Don't worry, my friend. You are on dry land once more. Hawk hawk hawk. Oh, it's on now, man. Bomb Burst reached to his back and pulled off his axe, glowering at his explosive target. You knock me out of the sky, we're gonna have some problems. All Bakugo did was scoff and brush him off. PSH, please, if ya flew as good as ya run your mouth, maybe ya wouldn't have that problem. That's it. Get him. With their respective blades drawn, the two pretenders rushed their opponents. But right as Bakugo and Earphone Jack were about to counter with some concussive force of their own. Incoming ENG. From over their heads, Iguanas came sailing down from the street above the bank, falling straight into Bomb Burst and Submarauder, and once again knocking them all straight into the drink. Splash. The two students spun around, seeing Deku perched at the edge of the high concrete wall. Kyoka, Kachan, you're alright. As he leapt down, Bakugo crossed his arms and retorted, of course, we're alright. You really thought these idiots would actually be able to do any damage? They talk big, but it's pretty damn obvious they aren't used to fighting like this. Oddly enough, I kinda agree with him on this one. Kyoka nodded. For a bunch of monsters, they're kinda unimpressive. Unimpressive. Submarauder's voice caught the trio off guard, along with the stream of water that came after and knocked Deku into the wall. As the fish man stood at the river's edge, Iguanas and Bomb Burst climbed out as well, both of them snarling with rage. We'll show you who's incompetent. Gentlemen, unleash hell. On his mark, the three pretenders unleashed their respective ranged attacks, Bomb Burst with his sonic burst, Submarauder with his water jet, and Iguanas with his poisonous gunk. Bakugo sneered in annoyance and quickly shoved Kyoka out of the way, shouting, get Deku so we can finish this. Gah. Hey, the hell do you think you're? But Earphone Jack trailed off when she saw him reach for the pin on one of his gauntlets, and just like that, she was turning the other direction. Never mind, I'm getting outta here. Good, cuz I'm about to lay some hate. And on that note, Bakugo pulled the pin. Chink. Ka-bam. The result of the two attacks colliding was a huge plume of black smoke shooting straight into the air, accompanied by fire, steam and several bits of sludge. But Kyoka ignored all of it as best she could, even with the loud noise, to get to her friend and get him out of the wall. Izuku. You okay? She took hold of his hand and pulled, only for him to stumble into her. Izuku caught himself before they both fell, but he also caught Kyoka by the waist, and they were now very close. If he wasn't wearing a helmet, the greenette probably would have felt her breath. All they could do was stare at one another, stunned into silence for several seconds before Izuku cleared his throat. I'm alright, he affirmed, standing her up. Thank you. No problem, Kyoka said, tapping her jacks together nervously. Hey, Katsuki suddenly screamed, knocking both of them out of their trance. Would you two quit flirting so we can finish these assholes already? Kyoka's face broke out in bright red almost instantly, and despite not being seen, Izuku's did, too. Shish, shut up, she snapped. We're getting to that. Yeah, well, get to it faster. Katsuki insisted as he pulled off his AP shot again to drive the pretenders off of him. I can't hold him off forever. The punk rocker shook her head and sighed, waving Izuku on his way. Go, help him. With a single nod, Deku powered up full cowling, this time to 20%, and shot forward, making sure to slap the right side of his belt for good measure. Kick. Once more, he felt the energy course through his body as he shot straight into the air and somersaulted again, thrusting his leg downward toward the perfectly aligned villains. At this angle, he'd be able to hit them all in a row. Polyhex. What the, oh my god. But by the time Iguanus noticed, it was far too late. SMAAAASSHH. Crash. The reptilian pretender screamed as Izuku struck him right in the side, causing him to smack straight into Submarauder and then for both of them to hit bomb burst. It was like Deku had kick all three of them when all he hit was one. And from there, the three villains soared about halfway across the river, before they fell and their bodies actually skipped across the water all the way to the other side. Pow there, they struck the concrete wall with force enough to crack it all the way up into the adjacent street, leaving a dust cloud to rise up upon impact. And that takes care of that. Izuku huffed. Katsuki and Kyoka, however, were completely gobsmacked by the attack. Holy shit, the latter uttered. Deku, how the hell did you do that? Demanded the ashen blonde. The helmet-clad hero could only offer a shrug and pointed to the belt. To be honest, I think it's this thing that's doing most of the work. Damn, that mad scientist might not be as crazy as I thought. Yeah, well, good luck getting her to make you anything. Kyoka quipped, waltzing over and nudging Izuku in the arm. Pretty sure he's her favorite guinea pig. Which I really don't know how to feel about. Izuku rubbed his neck, only to shake his head to get back on track. But we're wasting time here. Come on, we gotta get back and see if Mirko and the others need help. Izuku really should have known better. The moment they arrived back at the top of the wall, they were greeted by absolute carnage in the streets, and still, no one had died yet. Roadbuster and Lugnet were still hammering away at one another, though the wrecker seemed to be gaining ground with his jet-propelled advantage. Jazz, meanwhile, was using his energy grapple to move around the buildings and essentially make himself an untouchable target to the rest of the Viacons and barricade. No one could even so much as land a single shot on him, while he was blasting the cons from above with astounding precision. Would you stop it? Barricade hollered, trying his damnedest to hit a shot. Make me. Jazz taunted from high above. Hearing this made Roadbuster laugh as he knocked Lugnet further back. Guess her plan to stop us ain't goin' as well as ya thought. Silence. Lugnet raised his huge hammer above his head and brought it down toward Roadbuster's head, only for the wrecker to block it with the handle of his weapon. You Autobots cannot keep this resistance up forever. Inevitably, you will lose steam and you will crumble, just as all others before you. His insult only further strengthened Roadbuster's resolve. Yeah, well, I didn't lose a bunch of my best pals for nothing. BWOOOM. The jets on the hammer ignited again and smashed into Lugnet's chest, causing the brute to topple backward. Roadbuster was propelled further up before he swung the hammer straight down toward Lugnet's chest. How's this for loss in steam? Yeah. Clang. But, much to his astonishment, Lugnet swung his legs up and kicked Roadbuster off course, allowing Lugnet to swing his hammer around and smash it into the Autobot's side. Graah. Katsuki's eyes widened and he shouted, damn it. Boom! Without even thinking, he blasted himself toward the action, ready to join the fight. We leave you alone for 10 minutes and this is what you get yourself into. Kid. Roadbuster waved him off. Get back, you'll just get, gah. But he was cut off when Lugnet took him by the arm and raised it up, twisting it hard in an attempt to break it off. Ha. Struggle all you like, Autobot, but this will be your last bat, og. Pow. He was forced to let Roadbuster go, however, once Bakugo unleashed his AP shot upon him, causing Lugnet to swing around angrily. Bah, foolish human, you believe this will be enough to stop me? Just as Lugnet raised his hammer, Bakugo smirked. Nah, just enough to distract ya. Clang. And not a nanosecond later, Roadbuster brought his own hammer back up and swung it into Lugnet's back, sending him straight through a building. "Ha, kid, now I know you have a death wish," he admonished. Yeah, scold me later like everyone does." Bakugo balled his fists as more Viacons started coming. "Right now, we've got more important things to take care of." "Didn't say I wasn't appreciating ya or nothing," Roadbuster remarked, earning a small grin from the boy. "Now come on, let's show these aft shafts what being a wrecker is all about." Rawugh. Die. While the two trigger-happy combatants charged into the swarm of enemies coming at them, Izuku and Kyoka were more preoccupied by how their mentors were doing. Because, unsurprisingly to the latter, they were holding their own fairly well. Snake Eye's opponent was Skullgrin, and both were quick on their feet. The demented pretender astoundingly so given his large frame and choice of weapon, managing to counter Snake Eye's precise strikes with an excessive amount of force. That and the handle of Skullgrin's pickaxe being made of solid steel left Snake Eyes with little option than to keep countering his opponent's strikes. Eventually, this led to Snake holding his sword up to block an incoming downward swing from the pickaxe, but Skullgrin simply kept leaning in to try and overpower him. "Getting tired yet, Ninja Man?" the bovine-headed mutant taunted, pressing his pickaxe ever closer to Snake Eye's head. "I'll bet you've never had to deal with an opponent like me before, SHNICK*, gah." But what Skullgrin didn't see was Snake Eyes taking advantage of how close he was. Pressing his foot down, the Joe ejected a hidden blade from the tip of his boot and swung it straight into Skullgrin's thigh, causing him to double back in pain. "AAAGGH. You son of a bitch," Skullgrin hollered, gripping his bleeding leg. "Ha, take that, you bastard," Kyoka goaded from the side, getting ready to come to her master's aid. However, Snake Eyes held his hand up and shook his head, stopping her in her tracks. "Master, what?" But then, she saw him pointing back at Skullgrin, and his reasoning became clear. Skullgrin's wound was already healing at an accelerated rate, to the point that the only sign it had been there was the blood trail down his sinewy flesh. Ha. Oh, this serum does wonders for me." His sights went straight to Kyoka as he stood up, taking up his weapon in hopes of scaring her. "So, you're his student, Wonder how he'd feel if I, yeah." Once again taking advantage, Snake Eyes swiftly ran into Skullgrin's blind spot and stabbed him in the side, ushering Kyoka and Izuku to get away. "Master!" the punk rocker screamed as Skullgrin began trying to buck him off. "Kyoka, come on, you know he can handle himself," Izuku insisted. "The best thing we can do right now is help where we can, and, oh god. Kid, move," Mirko shouted as she practically rammed her arms into the duo, getting them clear of the rampaging Rhino Man that was about to plow into them. "Raahhh. You're dead, bunny bitch," Stranglehold belted out, his metal fists pounding holes into the street as he rampaged on all fours. As Izuku and Kyoka were carted off by Mirko, the rabbit hero stuck her tongue out at their pursuer. "Not if ya can't keep up, heavyweight." She bounded up the nearest abandoned building, a small hotel, until they were high up on a balcony, where Mirko set the two down to catch her breath. "Ha, okay, we should be good up here." But Kyoka was intent on getting an explanation. Mind telling us why he's so pissed off?" "Oh, nothing much," Mirko wore a cheeky smile as she rubbed her neck. "I may have just broke his hammer in a single kick, nothing major." "Ahahaha." The teens grimaced with deadpan expressions, only for Izuku to notice something. Rumble, is it just me or is the B building shaking?" Mirko's eyes widened and she peered over the side, only to see Stranglehold start to pick up the hotel by its very foundation, his eyes red with rage. "Crap baskets. Graahhh. I will destroy as many people as I have to so long as you're one of them." On that note, Mirko promptly picked up Izuku and Kyoka before jumping off the building, leaving it to collapse under its own weight after Stranglehold's attempt at lifting it. Once they were on the ground again, though, Stranglehold made a straight beeline for them, to which Mirko shoved the kids away to intercept him. "Deku, earphone jack, go." The rabbit hero performed a spin kick, her foot colliding with Stranglehold's metal fists. She grit her teeth through the pain as they kept exchanging hits, each one causing a loud clanging noise. And with each strike, the bottoms of Mirko's feet started to hurt more and more. "URK. I can handle this guy." "Not by yourself," Izuku insisted, bringing up his helmet again. "Let us help." The boy's conviction made Stranglehold smirk wickedly. "Oh yeah, please try. It'll be amusing watching her face as I rip your limbs off. BWAAAAAAMM asterisk, IOUG." But his postulating was cut short with Kyoka unleashing another sonic burst, allowing Mirko to get the upper hand. Lunar Crescent. She smashed the back of her heel into Stranglehold's midsection, knocking him backward. She was about to follow up, but then Deku then ran in and smacked the left button on his belt. Punch. With excess energy flowing through his arms again, Izuku laced his fingers together and exclaimed, "IACON, SMAAAAAASHH." Before swinging them into Stranglehold's jaw. The force was so great that it sent the Rhino Man careening right across the river. I swear, that has to be the worst kick I've taken." Iguanus uttered as he and his friends pried themselves out of the concrete wall. Bomb Burst shook his head, shaking the debris off his wings. Where'd these kids even come from, anyway? Were you not paying attention?" Submarauder admonished. Silas clearly said that they were UA students, though I will agree that they are astonishingly powerful. Iguanus grit his teeth in frustration. "Grr, each generation keeps getting stronger and stronger, but we'll show them. It's time we pick ourselves up and show them what we're really made of. Wait, do you guys hear that?" The trio perked their heads up and only barely managed to let out a scream of terror before Bam Stranglehold careened straight into them, once again landing all of them into the concrete wall. "I wish I'd never come here." Submarauder muffled, wedged under his comrades behind. Back across the river, Izuku took deep breaths and retracted his helmet again, only to get smacked across the back by his mentor. "Haha. Nice one, Midoriya." She reached around his neck and trapped him in a noogie. "Not exactly what I would have done, but damn if you're not making that belt work for ya." "Hehe, thanks, Mirko." At first, Izuku blushed at just how close he was to her, but seeing Kyoka's leering gaze made him collect himself quickly. Ahem, well, in any case, that 4 pretenders down and, whoa. Right at that moment, he was interrupted as Snake Eyes came sliding in, the ninja digging his heels into the road to stop himself. "Master," Kyoka exclaimed, seeing the gash in his suit that was dripping with blood. Their heads snapped toward Skullgrin as he approached, his pickaxe also dripping with red liquid. "Finally. Landed a hit on ya, you silent bastard, wait." It was only then that the skull-headed mutant realized, he was vastly outnumbered. Stranglehold. Submarauder. Bomb Burst. Iguanus. Why you assholes took him out. Well, we technically ejected them from the fight. Izuku glanced over toward the body of water. But yeah, they're all the way across the river. If Skullgrin's eyes could twitch, they would by now. What the hell, guys? You let a bunch of kids kick your asses. His shoulders slumped in disappointment, but not for long. Well, at any rate, I suppose it doesn't matter. Because we're gonna have the last laugh all the same. Mirko's eyes narrowed at his phrasing. The hell do you mean, bonehead? Pointing behind him, Skullgrin explained, hey, haven't you noticed by now? Someone's rather conspicuous by their absence, don't ya think? What are you, wait. Kyoka stopped upon realizing, they'd only been fighting 5 pretenders. Where's Octopunch? Ka-boom. The very next moment, a loud explosion drew their attention toward a rather large suspension bridge that connected the 2 halves of Mission City, where a plume of smoke was quickly rising. The heroes' eyes widened and their blood drew cold when they saw that the bridge wasn't empty. It was, in fact, filled almost entirely with vehicles, likely all trying to evacuate, and they could see the bridge start to sway. What did you do? Izuku hollered. Come to the bridge and find out. Reaching behind his back, Skullgrin pulled out a small, cylindrical device with a red button on top, his thumb hovering over it. We'll all be waiting there for ya. Click. In a sudden flash of bright light, Skullgrin had disappeared, much to their astonishment. He's got a teleporter. Mirko grit her teeth. Oh, that is so not fair. Not the point. Kyoka screamed. The people on that bridge are in danger. We need to get over there, now. Whipping her head around, she called for her partner. Jazz. We need a ride, ASAP. Having seen the explosion himself from above, Jazz leapt down from the building he was on and transformed after rolling across the road. *WHRRTSCHZZTSCHZZTSCHZZCHKT*. No need to tell me twice. He screeched over to the group with his doors wide open, prompting them to literally hop into the seats. Rhodey, we gotta get to that bridge. You good here? Ain't dead yet, Jazz, and neither is the kid. We'll meet up with ya later. You'd better save some for me, ya glory hogs. Katsuki snapped over Roadbuster's comlink. With that, Jazz sped straight for the bridge, with a certain crooked cop already on his tail. Oh no you don't. Barricade stumbled into his transformation and rushed after Jazz with his sirens blaring. You can't avoid me forever, Autobot. That bridge will be where I put you all to a watery grave. Meanwhile, Skybite was feeling extremely proud of himself as he and Gas Skunk dragged Optimus' body towards City Hall, his chest puffed out and a pep in his step. It was here where Decepticon Command had taken up residence for the duration of the battle, a large and wide building with large pillars out front, giving it a very open air to it. And there, he could see Starscream, Soundwave and Rodimus already waiting for him, the trio all wearing intrigued expressions. They really shouldn't be, though. Skybite remarked to himself. I am the best when it comes to subterfuge. He and Gas Skunk threw Prime's body in front of the concrete steps while Slapper and Darkscream kept hold of All Might, MT. Lady and the Mini-Cons, leading Starscream to raise an eyerage. Oh, and what do we have here? The Seeker leaned forward. Back so soon with the spoils, EH. You act surprised, Starscream. Skybite placed a hand to his chest. You do realize who you're talking to, correct? Yeah. Gas Skunk backed up his commander. When it comes to laying traps, no one does it better than Skybite. Darkscream pointed at the group while Slapper laughed dumbly. Yeah, and don't you forget it. He asserted. Soundwave wasn't as thrilled about their postulating, though. Alright, then if that's the case, then why aren't they restrained? Gas Skunk lifted his head and scoffed. PFF'd. Please, it was my noxious fumes that took them out of commission. They'll be out for decacycles, so there's really no need for stasis cuffs. Hoo-hoo, yeah, Slapper chortled while scratching his cheek. And it's totally not because we forgot to bring some with us. Hoo-hoo, Bonky was promptly silenced by a dual bop on the head by his teammates. Shut up, they yelled. Skybite facepalmed, shaking his head in exasperation. In any case, not only has Optimus Prime been subdued, but so has his Mini-Con, among others, as well as the #1 hero of this planet. As he talked on, however, he failed to notice a certain pair of blue optics open up, and in time, a shadow began to loom over him. I'd say we've readily wrapped this whole thing up before it even got started, so what say we dig up that energon and, he stopped short when he saw the other cons staring above his head, and it was only then did he notice the shadow. He's gotten up, hasn't he, Gurk? I have. Prime affirmed, swinging the Sharkticon straight into Gas Skunk. But he didn't stick around to finish things, instead whirling around and bringing out his battle axe to charge at the Decepticon commanders. Rodimus. Rodimus smacked his forehead, clenching his teeth with anger. Skybite, you idiot. Decepticons, ATA. THOOOOOM. Suddenly, all at once, the Predacons and surrounding Viacons all went flying as All Might and MT. Lady woke up as well, the former buffing up and punching Slapper into the sky while the giantess punt-kicked Darkscream into a nearby water fountain. Starscream, Soundwave and Rodimus were all left astonished by the giant woman, who peered down to see Gas Skunk right by her foot. A crooked smile scrawled across her beautiful features, leaving the Predacon feeling an immense amount of fear. How did you're supposed to be. Any good hero knows when to play possum. Mount. Lady explained, leaning down to pick up the quivering Gas Skunk by his tail. Your gas knocked us out, sure, but we woke up about halfway here. All we had to do was fake it till we made it. Oh, and one more thing. She brought her hand down and slapped Gas Skunk into the pavement, leaving him in the middle of a hand-shaped crater. That was for farting in my face. By that point, Roller and Safeguard were up as well, fighting off the Viacon troops with all might. How are you holding up, fellas? Fine, the Mini-Con combiner assured. The plan worked like a charm. How are you holding up, though? Roller inquired of the hero. I saw you coughing up blood earlier. All Might brought his hand up to his cheek, wiping off the blood. Yes, that's true, but in this case, it's well worth pushing past my limits. If I'm gonna take one step closer to retirement, then at least I'm doing it fighting for my world. Wham! With a single punch, All Might sent one Viacon through several others, leaving them in a broken pile of parts. That's what it means to truly be a hero. Sentimental slag. Rodimus roared in anger, taking out his sword and pointing it at their enemies. Starscream, Soundwave, Skybite, with me. Attack Prime and bring him down. Starscream spun toward Rodimus incredulously. You can't be serious. With a hand on his forehead, Soundwave uttered, I'm afraid he is. But it's fine. We can take him. But first, pressing down on his shoulder button, the communications officer summoned his own mini-cons. Laserbeak, Ravage, Rumble, Squawk-Talk, Beastbox, deploy. Operation, Warfare. Once his chest drawer opened, the 5 mini-cons all leapt out and transformed, charging straight toward the conflict. And immediately, Squawk-Talk and Beastbox combined into Skawkbox, charging straight for Safeguard. Oh ho, it is on now. RAAAAHH. HMPH, how droll. Starscream peered back up to MT. Lady as she continued to kick away the Viacon troopers, knowing exactly how to proceed. He pressed a finger to his helm, activating his comlink. Scrapper. I know you can see the giant Earth woman who's currently stomping on all of our men. Where are you? Keep your thrusters on, we're coming. The Constructicon leader shouted. Seconds later, the sound of 6 loud engines heralded their arrival, with Scrapper right in the lead. All right, gentlemen, this is what we've been waiting for, so we haven't got not a moment to lose. Constructicons, unite. Hearing his battle cry, MT. Lady swung herself around, just in time to see Scrapper and Mixmaster form the legs. From there, Hook transformed and landed on top of Longhaul's cab, the dump truck's rear folding downward to form the combiner's torso. Once they landed atop the legs, Bonecrusher and Scavenger transformed into the arms, and not a second later, Devastator's head shifted up from his torso, fully repaired and ready for action. Gra AAHH. Devastator wants vengeance. The combiner roared to the heavens before zeroing in on his opponent. Prepare for extermination. Mount. Lady's eyes widened, as she looked up at Devastator. Even at her full height, she was still a head shorter than the Constructicon combiner, and seeing just how densely armored he was, she was starting to get worried. But at the same time, like Prime said, she was one of their 2 best shots at countering this behemoth. And since Grimlock wasn't here with his fancy gun, it rested on her shoulders to hold him off. I don't think so. Yeah. With her resolve steeled, MT. Lady rushed in and started grappling with the green and purple Gestalt, pushing him back with all her might. Back on the ground, Rodimus balked at the sight as he and Optimus stood across from one another. If she hopes to defeat Devastator, she's gonna be sorely disappointed. He raised his sword to the Prime. Just like you will be, Optimus. You've come all this way, but you'll still inevitably fail. Megatron's will is supreme. Optimus glanced around, seeing Starscream, Soundwave and Skybite surrounding him. He was clearly outnumbered, but he wouldn't let that stop him. You may be right, Rodimus. But that doesn't change the fact that I will still fight to my very last sparkbeat. I refuse to relinquish my beliefs, even if that means the odds are insurmountable. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings, so I think you know exactly how this will end. Indeed, Rodimus affirmed, with his compatriots all readying their weapons. Any last words then, Prime? With his optics zeroed in on Rodimus' chest, there was only one thing that came to Prime's mind: one shall stand. Shink from both arms, Optimus brought forth 2 Energon axes, entering a combat stance. One shall fall. And this of Season 2 Part 51 of this What If. Hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.